All right. A little bit of messaging going on there. So, Lori, everyone, get on over to D Live, people, and get on over there. And we're only going to be on here for a few minutes. We do have Skullcap SaVant, aka Ben Wilkening, occultist. Let me shut this down here. Fellow occultist, free thinker. If we were back in the turn of the century, I'm sure we'd be in the same junto, discussing awesome things. Oh yes, power couples. D-Live, Michelle, jump on over to D-Live. I see you people over there. Come on. We got about 2 or 3 more minutes here. Then we're going to jump on over there, play some intros, and get right into our material today. Today we're talking about communism, some of the roots of communism, how it's rearing its head. We're talking about technology, the direction we're going, revisionism in history, and it's going to dance. It's going to dance in and out of occultism. It's going to dance. It's going to dip its big toe into the occult, into Satanism even, the original turn of the century stuff. All this stuff, as you know, is completely tied together. And if you have any doubt about that, just look at the disheveled state of the world that we're currently living in. Look at the hell that's been wrought upon us. Look at the angst, the perpetual fear. We talked about that last night, right? 2 + 2 = 4 does not equal 5, but the system, the government, would have you believe 2 + 2 is 5. Cognitive dissonance, right? This is communism. This is socialism. In my opinion, I've been railing against communism for 20 years now, since I was first able to dive into politics, be able to understand systems of government. When I first read, where was it? Where is my book at? Is it there? Well, I'm not finding it here. I must have mixed it around when I did my whole book list the other day. The Social Contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It is, got some YouTubers there. Jump on over to D-Live, guys. We're killing the feed in 1 minute. Talking about government. And, government is a way to rule people and manage them. The life force, the physicality, the 3-dimensional world that we live in. Government organizes and directs that labor, that essence, that life in this dimension. And isn't it funny? They say the 2 things that you're not permitted to talk about at work, in mixed company, in society, is religion and politics. What 2 more important topics dictate and flank, I guess, for a better word. My vocabulary is slipping here recently, but I'm lacking my reading. But bracket would be a better word. Our morals and values and direction. The systems, they don't want us talking about this. And that's exactly what we should be talking about. That's what we talk about here. So, all right. YouTube, we are out of here. By all means, please jump on over to D-Live, grab a subscription. I have it set to where you can comment in the comment section without that subscription, but if you want to be notified, please jump on over to D-Live and you will get notifications. You will get every single time I go live, you will get the notification. They're not like YouTube. We're not censored over here, okay? We need to make that leap. We need to jump over there and stop fighting the enemy on their battleground, on their platforms. I mean that. Make the step, jump on over to D-Live, check it out. Yeah, it's a different format. Yeah, it looks different. It's all right.
It's not too hard to learn.
No, it's
and
great.
It's a lot of fun. And if it's too busy for you, you can join over at Twitch. It's a little less congested visually, or at Periscope.
Yeah. So we're all over the place. So, all right. With that, guys, we're going to kill the YouTube feed here. I hate doing it. We got 55. Oh, not bad. 55 people. Looks like the D-Live audience is growing more and more every day. So if you did see this little bit here, you want to watch the rest of it with our special guest, Mr. Skullcap SaVant. Every time he's on, it blows everyone away. It's good stuff. By all means, jump on over. Show's always free. All right, YouTube, peace out. We will see you next time. For those of you, come on over to D Live. We'll run the intro and welcome you in. All right, ciao. All right. For the rest of us, doesn't work on mobile or tablet. Well, I don't
Twitch does. Twitch works really good. Periscope works really good on mobile too.
Yeah, there's always a reason why people say they can't do it. But there's Periscope and Twitch and everything else. So there you go. That's war. We're at war. Damn it. All right, let's run the intro, and we'll be right back, guys, with Skullcap SaVant. All right. All right, everybody. That's right. You are the resistance, and we are back. We got 193 people in the D Live. Awesome, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. All right, let's shoot on over, and we got Mr. Skullcap SaVant. How you doing, brother? Can you hear me good?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let's get this up here. All right, there we are. Let's pull this down here before we get into the info. How we doing? How you been? What's new?
Oh, just I'm in the process of moving right now. Actually, it's not a straightforward thing to do right now with the fallout in the real estate industry. It's what we're seeing, because we're just renting again, and everybody wants $2 a square foot for their furniture for these bunk Airbnbs that they're trying to offload because they can't make money off of them. And there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff going on. Just headaches, trying to get through the summer so I can get back to more research, actually, more reading, more research. I'm just trying to bide my time till September. How about you?
I understand that. We're also looking to make a move, sometime here, hopefully near future, but sooner than later. It's crazy. There's so much uncertainty out there. Which direction to go, what's going to happen, where do you go, all of it. The fluctuations in the market. Some people are holding on to everything, but right now everyone's buying out of town. Everyone's buying dirt out in the hills. They're scared to death. And I think this is a sign that people instinctively know to get out. And we're seeing it materialize in the economic world. We're seeing in the real estate world. People who have land right now out in the country, they're holding on to it, and it's fetching a fair price right now, premium price rather.
Well, Joe Rogan said it best in the intro to like one of his really old Netflix specials. He had this intro where he was flying in over LA, and he was talking about it's back when he still had hair, and he's looking out the window, and they're filming all this stuff in his little monologue, and he's commenting on how just industry and commercialism and buildings, it just looks like this big scab and this big cancer on the land. He goes into this really elaborate description about his thoughts on this is crazy. This shouldn't be the case. This is nuts. How is it that we like all coalesce like cancer in the same location? Isn't that cancer? But it couldn't be more true. And that's like circa him 2003, 2004, like right after the Fear Factor days. So he was, and now he's getting out. He's going to Texas as everybody's remarking on. So
he is going to Texas.
Yeah, he's leaving
That's
LA
interesting.
because I guess the comedy situation over there is
Dead.
in dire straits for opening back up. And
Yeah. Hey, real quick before we go out there, everyone, how does everyone sound here? What's your gain set at, by the way, on your Yeti there?
oh, I can set it down lower or higher.
Just a little bit lower, if you would. You're coming in pretty loud.
How's this?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, on those Yetis, you don't need a whole lot on those Yetis. They really, that's a phenomenal little microphone. They pick up really good.
I don't have much experience with it either. I've only done like 3 or 4 recordings, so thank you.
That's cool. That's what. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I set mine ever over like, I mean, just a tiny hair past 0. It has internal pop filters. That really is a good little mic. So just FYI. All right, cool. Well, people were excited here, man. It's good. I'm quiet. Someone says I'm quiet. Wait me up a little bit here. Trying to keep my P's from popping and blasting over here. I do need a limiter. I'll probably eventually get a new setup sometime, but as long as I don't do any yelling tonight, we should be fine.
Yeah, I'll try not to.
There's no guarantee.
All right, let me bring in real quick here, Alicia. Everybody, there's sweet Alicia. Say hello, baby. All right.
Hi.
Okay.
Nice to see you guys.
Alicia is moderating today. All right. Well, let's jump into our content here. Let's pull us back here a little bit. And we have pulled up first the current war. We are talking about communism, revisionism, and the occult tonight, as well as modern day economics. I know we wanted to get into a little bit of money issues as well. The scam that took place over there not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. We talked about that a little bit last time, but talk about that more. So take it away, brother.
Yeah, well, this conversation was for everybody's benefit. This was kind of spawned just because it's becoming more clear to me. I'm not even doing as much research as I could be doing because I've been pulled away from so much this summer. But what I have been able to do, it's been so clear to see. If anybody's not familiar with my work, I discovered a cipher that's quite clearly used in historical documents, in the geopolitical realm, in the release of technology. In the metaphysical sense, it has to do with the 5 senses. It's a cipher that's used in the occult that has everything to do with mind control, the V cipher. And in this way, it relates back to the popular novel V for Vendetta and the whole Guy Fawkes theme, in fact, that pervades into the whole Q phenomenon. So using it, it's quite clear, where the Q phenomenon becomes quite clear, among other things. But that's not the focus of this tonight. The focus is those other things. The other things surrounding it seem to be a picture that's being painted all around the suppressed technology, the historical secrets that have been kept from us for who knows how long, as far back as we can analyze anyway. We're going to get into that a little bit, I think. But the indicators of this cipher are showing what the ramifications and kind of afterthought of the chess moves that are happening with the players that are involved. And what is clear is that there seem to be a few factions that are vying for position in this geopolitical rejiggering that we have going on, and that, you know, we're being kept from because we're distracted with a bioweapon and COVID-19 that the Chinese Communist Party had everything to do with. And there's, you know, your little thread to start the communist topic for tonight. So
sure.
I had just seen a lot, and Corey and I had caught up, and we decided to do a show because this is actually a lot easier on me to download or some of this stuff rather than do a whole production myself, because you know, it's just, I'm itching to get this out and have people aware of it at least. But yeah.
Non-content creators don't understand the buildup we get in our heads when we have to get information out to clear it in order to get the new stuff come in and move on to new projects. They don't get it. They think we just, you know, come here and talk. But you talk about not having enough time for research. My God, man, I have 3 books I'm working on. I haven't had time in 7 months to even start in on them again. There's so much material out there and so many directions and things. We had a whole plan to visit different places in the state and start doing energetic studies of ancient Native American sites and pioneer sites and exploring those from an energetic realm. Couldn't get to it. It's just been nonstop COVID. You mentioned the geopolitical structuring. Well, how about the geoeconomical structuring and the geospiritual restructuring? We are being completely restructured from every sense, from every dimension right now. We talked, I don't know if you caught the show last night, but we talked about how they are trying to get us to believe that 4 + 4 is 5, that the mask is going to save us. Everyone knows, dude. Everyone I talk to knows the mask is bullshit. Everybody out there, it's the rare person who thinks, oh my God, I got to wear this mask. Everyone knows it doesn't work. People have, the truth has creeped in. The cracks have been wide enough, kind of like the bathroom stall, right, in a public bathroom. It's just a wide crack, and you can always see through the fucking thing. And the truth is always going to come through. And people are, it comes through. They know that the mask, they don't know what it is. I don't think a lot of people don't know. The sheeple normies don't understand it's a ritual. They don't get that at this point, but they know it doesn't work. They've seen enough YouTube videos and truth or red pill videos and documentaries, and enough friends have said, man, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. A virus will go right through here, to know the difference. But yet the government is, and to me, out of everything that's going on worldwide right now, that mask is the crux. That mask is the nexus of where this spell, where this sorcery all comes together, and the equity and energy of the entire mass of the human planet is being siphoned and sucked right into the restructuring ritual that we're currently undergoing. I'm big on the mask, man. Everyone knows, like I said, that virus go right through it. It's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence. People aren't dumb, yet there's so much fear pumping straight at them that they think there's a little doubt. What if I take it off because that guy over there is wearing it? And what does he know that I don't? And that's why I tell everyone every day, it's so important to go out. It's so important to go out and say, hey, that mask isn't doing anything for you. Just so you know, COVID's only killed, even with the inflated numbers, 160,000 people in this country in the last 6 months, 7 months. Yet abortions have killed 507,000. Are you aware of that? And I get right back in their faces and pump it out to them, because I'll be goddamn, man. 2 + 2 is 4. It's not 5, and it's not sometimes 3, and it's not occasionally 3, 4, or 5, like 1984 preached at us. There is a reality, and the reality is that everyone knows deep down fundamentally that this is a reset, a scam, 9/11 2.0. Yet we're being told this fiction on top of it, this artificial fiction, and that mask is the equity people are pouring into this ritual.
Let's start there. Let's start with the masks. I have a perspective I don't think a lot of people have probably thought of around the masks. Sure. And it has to do with everything you're talking about. But I look at it, I gauge the masks like, of course, everybody correctly labels the mask as a psyop. It's a psyop of some sort. And everybody feels, probably quite correctly, that they're being duped somehow.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what everybody can agree on. And that's why it's a weird topic. But they don't, therein lies the why or how somebody might be duped, and the how they might be duped is all I can really focus on in critical thought that you apply to it. But psyops are, well, we were talking about this yesterday, war, starting out with, art of war, Sun Tzuian concepts, is all deception. It's all misdirection. It's all trickery.
Yeah,
what's that?
Without strategy, you cannot have deception. And without deception, you cannot control your opponent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rule 1, art of war.
Spying is the most important chapter in the whole friggin' book. And, the whole idea then is to find out, okay, well, how are we being deceived? And You just have to think about it. And this is where my thoughts have gone anyway, because as we're going to talk about today, that we're talking about a few different factions that we can identify. One of the factions that I talk a lot about is the Jesuit faction, and I call them the Fox faction because, and what do you know about Fox, but Fox News and all these other different Fox memes I've been able to tie back through the V steganography to the concept. So there's a lot to do with them somehow in play. And if you know anything about the Jesuits, they operate in this modality called casuistry. Casuistry is using this art of deception, this art of war concept to manipulate, to basically make nice and manipulate from within because you're trusted. And so you can twist that trust. So this is all really politicians jive down to anyway, at the end of the day, whether they're Jesuits or not. It's very similar playbook that's been cast upon the whole role of a politician. So here's my point. Everybody's probably hearing me drone on. The PSYOP seems to be, to me, for the masks, that we are being told one thing to act another. One faction, the faction that I argue that Trump is behind, who wants ultimately new technology, a new technology paradigm, a new space force, all of these types of themes have come out. This would require naturally secrets from our past, our secret history of ancient human history here on Earth to come out and be in front of God and everybody, spilled out for everybody to see and analyze. And oh, holy crap, what does this mean? There's another faction who doesn't want this to happen. And all of the counter moves that seem to be in the chess game that they're playing right now, we just see the effects. And the effects are whatever we argue about with COVID-19, whatever we argue about with Q, whatever we argue about political, division and riots and racism and whatever. We're given a lot right now to argue about so they can play their chess game. And what I think is happening is this faction that also wants the space tech wants to take down the technocrats, those that have the security regime with the NSA and the CIA and the intelligence community, keep all the secrets, every agency that would stand to gain from keeping secrets suppressed. One faction necessarily needs those secrets to come out so they can take their because they're capitalists. They want to take their capital into space. There's nowhere else to spend it down here, and they want to take it to space. You got the other side that we identify kind of with the Democrats as the anti-capital. They just want to print money ad infinitum and debase the system. So these are really the things that the mask argument's about, and here's why. The main thing around the masks is not whether or not it's going to contract COVID, because you're right. The only way that the masks commensurately do anything with the virus itself is if it's somebody who's already sick. The particulates will get caught if you're coughing into it. That's about the only thing that the mask will do for anybody. But what else the mask will do is it will bypass facial recognition technology that's installed everywhere. And it can't, because even a mole is enough to trick. If you put like a fake mole on your face, it's not sophisticated yet enough to where it will identify you as somebody else. So when you have a whole mask over your face, it now cannot catalog where you're going. And now you see the counter move from the tech companies. This is where all the contact
But will it, and let me play devil's advocate here, will it bypass it, or will it stress test it and allow them to work out the bugs?
It could, but the only thing that's available to you therein is your eye, and an eye is too complex of a thing to scan without a retinal scanner, a really deep retinal scan, as I understand the biometrics to work.
Sure, but they do have facial recognition. We know that, but they also have full body recognition in conjunction with that. So, and I watched a little short doc on this a while back. It was a news piece. They measure the gait, the swing of the arms, how high you hold your head, even down to your clothing style, and the AI fills in what clothing you might be wearing again. They were saying that from the back of the head, without the face, just the gait of the person with the back of the head, they can get like a 98% accuracy, the person in that, because they don't have to scan everyone in the world. They just scan everyone in Arizona, right? Let's say we're talking about us here, right? And in our area and what time we're out in conjunction with the information pumped into that phone, where we're likely to be, all of that information gets crammed in there, and within a millisecond, I don't even know, dude, if they need our face anymore.
But yeah, and herein lies the thing. It might not matter, because to me, we're just pawns in the game anyway. But one faction is just trying to slow the other one down. If they're at war, then a major inconvenience like the mask is good enough as a chess move, right?
Okay.
If you just took the rook, and it takes a while to recover from that, and you have to scramble your forces to mitigate the damage otherwise, because of all of the things in the agenda of the people in the technocracy who want all of this surveillance state to come out. The thing that it seems that you can also analyze that one side is winning. The side that also would argue against the masks. It's just like posting speed limits. People don't observe the speed limits. So the people that are aligned with wanting the masks on are actually on the right, therefore. Because they know that by claiming, no, don't wear your masks, people are going to do the opposite. People on the other side are going to do the opposite. Therefore, they get their enemies over. They're the ones that were aligned with the other side. They're actually doing damage to the side that they belong to, if that were the case. This is only my manner of thinking, my conclusions that I've drawn by thinking hard about these things. And it's just how you have to think about war tactics. You can't see all of the stuff. You can only see the afterthought, really. So you can only do your best to analyze through the occult,
the ripples,
and how to predict the next moves. And so I think that's truly what it's all about. And it doesn't make this situation any less precarious. It doesn't really even matter. I think if this is the case, what side you're on or you're not on, because you're acting out your own belief system based on the triggers that they want your belief system to inhabit new qualities by. And so I think we all have to have that lens as we go through this, as we are being used in this war somehow at all times, lest we break the mind control.
I think we're sort of like the batteries in the matrix plugged in. We're the labor. We're the ones, and we have to be managed like labor. I think that's where we're at. I had a very good friend, die a few days ago. He had, I've known him since I was a kid, and those people that are just good. They're just good people. They're gentle. They're not exceptional in anything other than just being good, a kind person that was always there for everybody, never had a horrible thing to say about people, worked hard. It was this guy. That was this guy. And it was a blessing to know him. He died. He'd got snake bit years ago when we were kids, and some damage to his liver, but he had liver cancer, and it took him. He could not get into the doctor because of COVID. They would not treat him because of COVID, everything that was going on with the hospital. I called a mutual friend of ours. We were talking to her today. He said, yeah, Corey, but he said, that's the plan. He said, don't you get it yet? They're killing off the weak. They're killing off the elderly. This doesn't affect 99% of the human population. It affects the weak already. And you couple that, the elderly and the sick, the comorbidities, you couple that with them actively shutting down the hospitals and the medical system and not treating people, and you're going to get a higher rate of death for those who are sick. This is the Nazi dream, to get rid of those without actually lining them up on a pit and putting a Luger to the back of the head. They're using the medical system itself to get rid of the liability, those that can't work, those are taking money through Social Security and annuities off the top and the feds. And I think they're just shaking down and culling the herd, if you will. I think that's part of this, while they're restructuring the entire economic and, more importantly, the sociological aspects of, last night we talked to great length about my main thing is, what will you tolerate? How much of this will you take? We didn't revolt in the streets with guns. We didn't go out and say, screw the masks. We did exactly as they thought we would do. And they pushed and they backed off, and they pushed and they backed off. And Fauci, with the scare tactics, and Birx scientifically pushed at just the right time and then backed off again. Cognitive dissonance with, don't wear the mask, wear the mask. The mask might help. New data points there. They've said everything, and they negotiate within the chaos. But I think this is a multi-dimensional plan. I really do. I think they're attempting to restructure everything, like you and I talk about, especially the money system. We'll get there eventually. We're going to do a whole show on the money. That's where it's at. The medical system and the money system. You're going to control everybody through those. But I think the ultimate goal on top of that is the domination of the human soul, the spirit. And to get into communism a little bit here, that's what communism does. There are deaths through mass killings and poverty, slave nations, right? The gulags, all of that stuff that the communists are responsible for. However, the greatest sin of that political ideology, that system of death, is the destruction of the human soul and the spirit. And I see us slipping into that right now. I see people sitting home. I see the suicide rates going up. I see the domestic violence going up. The hope. I have friends that are losing their businesses in restaurants. There's nothing moving. And that's, I think, the real crime.
Oh, I think so, dude. And I think, okay, I have a lot to comment on what you just said, actually, before we totally dive in, because you said something there where you said this is the Nazi dream. And it's now, effectively, it's the communist dream, now incarnate with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And if you look at all of these medical things too, I also put a lens of this current war that we're in with them to that medical establishment, because there are a couple of things at play. The multidimensionality is in my eyes unquestionable, because what I've also been talking about lately over on my Patreon channel is this concept of the Wetico virus. The Wetico virus.
The what virus?
Wetico.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
This is what the Native Americans used to ascribe in a metaphysical archetype to the energy that exists out there that so captivates people's minds to twist them. It's the dark side of the Force. It's the weakness that Anakin Skywalker couldn't get over and turned him into Darth Vader. If he would have let go and not got caught in the mindset of this worry because he kept having this vision, if anybody remembers the story of Anakin, where his wife was going to die. If he would have let go from the vision, he would have found out at the point in time he would have been able to have the means to save her, but he has to twist his soul and sell his soul to the devil, to Satan, to Wetiko, in order to presumptively take control of his own life again. And this is the virus that everybody has under, that doesn't surrender, that doesn't submit to a more divine higher power. It's not submission, but rather assimilation.
Sure.
And rather that's actually the goal with Wetiko too, is you have to assimilate your own dark side. That's because evil will never go away. There's no thwarting of evil. Evil will always be there. It's the yin and the yang of the universe. That's the Shiva destruction and creation cycle. And
the other half of God.
And so all you can do is be the observer of your experience and assimilate that in. This is kind of what the practice of yoga does such a good job at maintaining for people. But Wetiko is a deep concept that there's a book called Dispelling Wetiko by Paul Levy that I reference all the time. It's one of the books that I've read several times because it's
called what?
Dispelling Wetiko.
Dispelling Wetiko.
Yeah, and Wetiko is spelled Wetiko.
Do you can you see the screen? I have it pulled. I got it pulled up here for you.
Sure. I don't see the screen.
If you want to open up one of your browsers to the show on DLive, or go to DLive or wherever I'm at.
Who's the author again?
Dispelling
Paul Levy, Levy.
Lev. Oh, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul Levy. You'll see it here, and you can kind of turn your volume down, and you can see when I pull stuff up.
Okay.
Yeah, you should see it there. Right, and for everyone else, if you are listening, a lot of people who listen to the show, Wetiko, the virus of selfishness, according to Native Americans. And isn't it interesting? Because if everyone who listens to this show, you know what I always talk about, the heart of every sin, every one of them, without exception, is selfishness. You steal because you're selfish. You kill because you're selfish. You cheat because you're selfish. All of it comes from selfishness. That's the linchpin of that. According to Native Americans, Wetiko is an evil spirit that invades human minds. It's a virus of selfishness, a psychic pathogen forcing the victim to feed their insatiable needs as if they were starving. It makes humanity become its own worst enemy. This interesting yet unsettling view comes from a piece of literature we think everyone should read. Paul Levy is an admirer of Carl Jung's legacy and the regular columnist for The Guardian. He wrote a literary piece titled Dispelling Wetiko that deserves some reflection. Levy says that we live in the era where most psychosocial phenomenon proves the existence of a virus of selfishness. Wetiko is a word that Native Americans use to designate an evil person who never worries about the well-being of others. So there you go. That's it right there.
And this is very frankly the best meme I can give people to help understand where people in this communist mindset are. They're totally captivated by this mentality, and that book is heavy to go through. It takes you a while the first time you read it. It's just, oh my God, the revelations. There's so much. You start reflecting on your own Wetiko because everybody's got it.
Of course,
everybody's caught by this virus in whatever degree they are. Nobody escapes it by manifesting, really. But the Chinese Communist Party, they're the ones, it's funny, the virus meme, they're the ones that created a bioweapon and had it blow back in their face. And the bioweapon actually affected them more than it affected whoever that they had plans for this thing for. Because if you think about, again, war tactics, and you might be able to see weak points in your enemy. If we're China's enemy, which I think it's clear at this point we are, then you'll see the degrading medical system. You'll see how messed up the culture is becoming and how divisive it is becoming. And the best war tactic is to attack people that don't even know they're being attacked, because then you can't ascribe the attack to an origination point. This is the whole point. So if you can create the conditions as the Communist Party such that it wreaks enough havoc, the original plan, it seems, by the way, was not to kill old people, but it was to kill the age 20 to 40 military age males. It didn't happen that way. It actually blew back in their face because the phenotype that it attacked the hardest was their own. So we actually escaped with luck in that capacity, where it's not affecting us that way yet. But they did, I think, probably know and probably predict that this would overwhelm the hospital systems. And this is part of the maniacal part of the attack is, yeah, you can say a lot of crazy crap about hospital systems and how they've been in bed with the literal Nazis since the IG Farben breakup and the pharmaceutical industry. But I don't know if a lot of that stuff plays in here with the COVID stuff. I think what you see is the results of the effective attack, at least to bring the medical system to its knees by communist China. Because if you look at it, these are all for-profit businesses. The only way that they're getting recompensated for anything is if they label things as COVID. That's why you see the preponderance of motorcycle accidents labeled as COVID, because the money that they get for labeling it as such is the only thing keeping them afloat.
And it perpetuates the actual...
Yeah. So
Ritual, yeah.
they exactly. So and now it looks like, and now that's doubly good for somebody like communist China, because now we're blaming within our own borders ourselves. And there's plenty of blame to go around with the craziness, with the actual pedophilia trafficking stuff that you just don't know so much about, that definitely is in the underbelly over here. But not everything, I think, should be ascribed to what we're dealing with here. It would actually, I think, help heal us a lot more if we looked at where the actual origination of these attacks was, because we have a better shot at coming together as with actual fellow countrymen who you may or may not disagree with, but they're your countrymen, versus people that are attacking you from overseas for probably 20, 25 years, and you just didn't know it. So that's kind of all of these topics, as you see, like you were just going over, these all kind of relate to this whole communist mindset. Call it Satan, call it Wetiko, call it whatever you want. It's still that also multidimensional thing that we're fighting.
Yeah. And you know me, I'm always very quick to tell people, guys, don't get hung up on the labels. The Christians will say it's Satan, it's Lucifer, it's the devil. And I could come around and I could make an argument. Those are actually three separate entities. One's a label, and the two, and there's theologists, priests, Catholics have been arguing those in seminary school for hundreds of years. Don't get caught up. Every culture has a name for the same things that we fight. And that's what I've taken away most from my occultic studies. And that's where my enemies and those who say that I'm not a Christian have been duped by Satan, the devil. And that's where the Muslims will say that I've been duped, by their devil, and on. Being a student of the occult and having access and searching out all these systems of theology and spirituality my entire life, you do, after half a lifetime, begin to see the parallels between all of these systems and these religions. And you're absolutely right, man. It's the Wetiko, it's the devil, it's the evil energy, it's the dark self coming out, it's the other side of you, it's God's other half. However you want to visualize that in your head, whatever you need, that's fine. But don't get hung up on that. It's easy to see light, and it's easy to know what darkness is, and go towards the light. Stamp out the darkness. So someone just wrote in the comment section, don't fight evil, bring the light. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that. At the same time, there's a time for fighting. God had Michael, and Michael came down. He was an angel, and he smited, whatever the word is, hundreds of thousands of people. There's a time for that, but you don't get wrapped up in that either. Otherwise, those energies will overtake you. You mentioned earlier.
There's actually a yogi philosophy that goes to the concept of, because the mind should always be flexible and fluid, but there's a rigidity that you owe to it, of your principles and your honor and your virtues, of which you should not bend. There should be certain aspects of the mind that should not bend whatsoever, because to bend them would be to lose yourself.
Yeah.
So there's being flexible and maintaining balance and living a hippy dippy lifestyle, like so many people that misconceive what yoga really is. But that's really the way to look at it, like you're saying.
Yeah. And that is, again, the yin and the yang. It's both at the same time. It's neither simultaneously. It's Eastern philosophy, as you know it. God talks about that, and people think, people take what they want from the Bible and the religion. If you're a whatever flavor of Christian you are, you probably learned about it in your local church, how it was taught to you from that particular person. You understand there's a lot of different flavors and aromas and nuances of Christianity that are preached. Christianity isn't practiced the same way here as it is in Ethiopia, where I think would be the origin of Christianity, where it's originally from, where the Septuagint is put together. Keep that in mind. Don't be so rigid also in your beliefs. Be rigid in your morals and values, but don't be so rigid that you can't learn. That'd be my caution. You mentioned earlier something about the Jesuits. How do the Jesuits tie into this? Because I got a lot of feelings about the Jesuits.
Well, it seems I can't say that the Jesuits aren't playing both sides of this. That's how they're. Well, for one, here, for instance, this will tie in to a couple of different concepts that I don't know if a lot of people open their minds up to. I stacked a couple books that may or may not be relevant. So turns out they're going to be. This is Joseph Farrell's book, The Cosmic War. And he's written a couple follow-ups to this book, but this is probably the most literate, well-researched perspective that I've been able to gain on ancient Earth is everything he's been able to amass. His books are so friggin' footnoted that it's not even fun. He references like 50 books in every single one of his books to build this awesome tapestry and analysis. And he's to my eyes correctly painted out that for one, there was a civilization here in the system, just in the solar system, that is millions of years old and predates anything that certainly we have written down. Mm-hmm. And the only texts that we have are monoliths, legends, myths themselves. And so to truly understand myth, then you have to decode what myth is. And myth itself is just a codex for different terms and memes and things to use through time, so that we might be able to decode it again in the future by picking up the riddles.
Does mythos mean the truths? Mythos,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The truths.
Exactly. So he's taken this viewpoint, and he's, I think, very correctly painted at least a very realistic, plausible picture about a race that destroyed themselves so that they needed to recuperate somewhere. They destroyed a planet. If you read Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish, the Mahabharata, mm-hmm. All of these texts, even some weird stuff in the Hebrew traditions, of course, where most of the stuff gets decoded from as well. They point back to this event about this thing happening, and we do indeed have a missing planet beyond Mars. And beyond Mars, is the asteroid belt, is where a planet should be if you look at the valence of how the system should operate. Mm-hmm. So you paint all these things together. You also get that the atmosphere of Mars is mysteriously blown off, and that the civilization that is there seems to be remnant. To me, it's if anybody's ever read Frank Herbert, Dune,
Arachnus, man.
In my eyes, I think that's more historical fiction than not. In my eyes, this guild that exists in Frank Herbert's novel kind of goes right along with this breakaway civilization that another author in Walter Bosley paints a picture of, who's operating in an economy out in space that we do not perceive, and is mm-hmm. powered by Lockheed Martin stuff, the Boeing skunk works stuff. Mm-hmm. It all goes back to Civil War times. When these guys started engineering these devices, these aircraft, and they broke away when their tech got back to the same point. But the point is the origination of that mindset seems to be all over the system. And it's weird that the people in the Dune novel are called the Fremen, the Freemen.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, I think there are fellow humans that got marooned there, because I do think there are people there, and they are probably such badasses that we can't even comprehend by this point in time, because their experiences of life have so hardened them, just like the Freemen, that they're also on one end of the spectrum a real danger to this government, this empire that we see out in space. Anybody can look at this empire out in space with a 3,000 pair of night vision goggles. By the way, it's up there, very clear as day. But
I loved the movie Dune. It was turned on to me when I was about 19, 20. I'd never heard of it. I had heard of it, but I'm like, some friends in high school like, oh, you got to see Dune. I'm like, okay, sci-fi, whatever. I was into botany back then. I sat down, I watched it. At the same time, I was studying hardcore religion. I had just read Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. Mm-hmm. I was just getting, it was the beginning of my journey. I was just reading Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth. I was reading, the I Ching. 1819. I finally got out of school and had time to read a good book, right?
Talk about the I Ching, man. I Ching here. I don't know if this is part of this whole original Jesuit question you even answered. The I Ching, the Hermetic Code in DNA, and this book, the I Ching and the Genetic Code. If anybody's ever read the I Ching, it's a DNA template. It lines up to codifications of DNA and what you can do with it. So this all lends credence back through that timeline to Joseph Farrell's suppositions about this race that's been manipulating it all along, attempting, all their goal seems to be is to get back to space, to be a spacefaring race and do it on the labor of our backs. So because they so destroyed themselves with this planet blowing up in the last 3.5 million years that they've been occupying Earth, let's say, while the Fremen may have been really pre-existing on Mars, as it were, our brother humans. Venus came into the picture. Venus is a captured planet that the sun grabbed.
Absolutely it is.
Anybody who wants to read about that, just pick up David Talbot's Thunderbolts of the Gods. That's probably the best summary that anybody's ever done of that event.
I've at this time in my life, I look at the solar system and I see it as a mechanism, as a machine. If Jupiter wasn't there protecting the solar system through its gravitational field, it's the protector through gravitational. The characteristics and personalities we ascribe the planets through astrology, the science or religion, what I call the science of astrology, are actually what they're doing. And I don't think the solar system is an accident. I think everything is intentional the way it was set. I think the moon, I still believe the moon is not what we've been told it is. Do I know exactly what it is? No. But just going through the math and the numbers and the distance and the size and how it's the measurement system we use on Earth, there is an ancient measurement system and technology that we are living. It has influence over us. And people who don't study the occult, they don't get this. They don't know about any of this. But the moon is fundamental to how we behave and think and feel. And it's one more little cog that keeps the balance, and it keeps the seasons, and it keeps, the whole system, though, I think was set up for a specific reason. And I think it's been here a long time. I really do.
There's a train of thought there with the moon that ties to what we're talking about, in that, this planet that was destroyed so disrupted the electric balance of the system. Of course, you change the structure of an atom if it loses an electric charge, if it loses an electron, as they say, yes. Right? It changes its properties. So naturally speaking, if our system lost a planet, all sorts of wacky stuff starts to happen. This is not in David Talbot's book, but it's my theory that's why Venus was able to be captured in the first place. Like a valence electron, it was just pulled toward the system as we're rocketing through space like a comet. And this is probably a little bit out there for some people, but there's enough to suggest a train of thought through some of Joseph Farrell's work, through some of the work that Corey's likely referencing, that is the same people I've done the investigative studies on the moon with. But it seems to me like it could be a situation like the original Ark, where the people that parked themselves here parked the moon such with some fancy mathematics that got it to where it was exactly 108 times the size, or 108 times the size, or 108. What is it?
It's 400. 400 times smaller than the sun, yet 400 times more distance, I believe is what it is. So it appears to be the same size as the sun through its size. And that ratio would not, the mathematics of that being to where it would cover it up during a perfect eclipse is so astronomical. It's a signature. It's an absolute signature.
This is one of those things that I was going to point to as well. It doesn't so much matter what the 108 calculation is, because it's escaping me. The
108 is the number of the moon because it's 108 something miles across. What is it?
It's like 108 times the distance to the sun or something, as far as I was remembering. But the significance of the chain of events of how the moon got here and all of the epics, the old ancient epics texts.
Even how it's built. It's built with a very hardcore center.
And it's hollow. Yeah.
It's hollow, and however, it has a very soft, really soft cushion of dust that will take any impact. So it's the perfect design for a body in space without an atmosphere to absorb all the rocks and meteors and shit coming at it. It's designed for that.
Yeah, it's quite simply put, it's the most anomalous thing in the entire solar system.
It goes more to prove there's more evidence to prove that the moon is constructed than otherwise natural. Mm-hmm. To believe it'd be easier to prove with the or to believe with the proof available to us in the numbers in science that the moon was constructed with intelligent thought somehow through some mechanism other than it's just happened to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And this is the crux of your question. It would seem what the V steganography and whatever Jesuit factions that use the cipher to their advantage seem to be occluding, because the answers to these riddles break down the system that would benefit them the most. So the occult is used quite blatantly on us, and the spells that have been used for thousands of years in order to get us to this point. It's my opinion that they're, of course, working for these other beings. They're just the lackeys, but they're also the ones that are our fellow humans that are able to, be our elite, quote unquote, controllers. But there's otherworldly entity battles going on quite clearly to me. It would seem anyway it's my conclusion that we're going to see a lot more of come out over these next couple of years, is this apparent current war that we're in with China starts to fracture the truth away. The facade will start falling away. And my hope is we'll have nothing but abundant knowledge then to decide what to do with. But people have got to remain psychotically, kind of put together. We can't let our psyches break down in this time any more than they already have. But
that was last night's goal. I kept telling everyone 2 + 2 is 4. It's not 5. They're going to keep telling you it's 5, and sometimes 3, and quite often 3, 4, and 5 simultaneously. They're going to keep telling you to wear a mask and then not to wear a mask. They're going to get right in the face of your common sense, and you're going to see everyone out there like sheep doing it, and you're going to do it to fit in, to go along, to get along. Don't do that. You will lose yourself. You will lose your soul. You will lose your psyche if you do that. This is a war for your soul, for your very mind. And it's like those little steps. When a cop pulls you over, step out of the vehicle, stand over here. Just come here, stand over here, please. By that time, you've complied 3 times, and you're going to do everything else. That's what this is.
The Greeks called this the nous, the Nous. It's the seat of all of your knowledge and all of your intellect, all of your knowings, all of your understandings. The metaphor that you can just, it just comes to you. It's the nous. Mm-hmm. And this has everything to do with the senses. This actually, funny enough, we just talked about Venus. This factors back into Venus and what you see with this V steganography spell. Here's a freebie for everybody. There's no mistake why the planet Venus is called Venus. I think the V, the 5, the Roman numeral for 5, is the 5th element, the ether, the 5 senses, the senses that tie us to this realm. And V-Nous, therefore, is to say everything related to this knowledge, this nous concept that we talked about, this metaphysical intuitive knowing, mm-hmm. as ascribed to, though, the senses. These two things are kind of polar opposites. The senses, the sensory mechanisms that we have that trick us into thinking all this is real, and the nous, which is more tied to our actual spiritual mindful self. And so these are those things that if you look at everything of the senses, you're being distracted over here, you're being distracted over here. This is the tough part about the distraction. Not everything you're being distracted from is necessarily in this realm. It could be that they're overwhelming your senses, which is probably more to do with why everybody feels the way they do so psychotically. They're just overwhelming the V, they're overwhelming your nous. And they are, I always say these people that are in the Jesuit class, these Jesuit Fox faction guys.
And real quick, let me, I want to get something as you've been commenting on that here. Guys, we don't talk about the Jesuits very much in this world these days. They kind of got a bad name. They are the assassination wing of the, they're the militant body of the Vatican Church. According to prophecy right now, we do have the first Jesuit Pope, right? Frankie. And
yes, I think he may also have been, well, they have two popes. There's a black pope, which is the leader of this. He's the superior general. That's what they call him, of the Jesuit army. And he's always a Jesuit. And then they have the white pope, and the white pope is the public figure. I think Francis very well could be the first both black and white pope who's in a seat at the same time.
And simultaneously the black and the black pope. And here's why. I spoke to a priest a couple of years back when Frankie first got in, and he said, Corey, he was on tour. He said, Corey, Frankie is the black pope. And I said, why? He goes, he's the Jesuit order, and the Jesuit order wear the black robes. We call them the black wing of the Catholic Church. They were the ones that did the necessary evil, the assassinations throughout history. That's what they've done. He is the first black pope. And I thought, I mean, I got chills, you know. But here, for those of you who don't know,
he's the first public black pope, to be clear. Lorenzo Ricci, by all rights, I think may have been the first black pope. Lorenzo Ricci was the one.
And we're not talking skin color here, by the way. We're not talking race. We're talking.
That's right.
Yeah, just for everyone to know.
It's the title that they carry. In the shadows. So Lorenzo Ricci was the one that was in office during the course of the Revolutionary War.
And to give everyone, I'm just going to read a couple of these here. You can find this if you want, but to give an idea of what the opinion of Jesuits has been throughout U.S. history, Abraham Lincoln said, the war, i.e. the Civil War, would never have been possible without the sinister influence of the Jesuits. Samuel Morse, American inventor of the telegraph, said, the Jesuits are a secret society, a sort of Masonic order with superb features of revolting odiousness and 1,000 times more dangerous. Edmund Paris, author of the book The Secret History of the Jesuits, said, the public is practically unaware of the overwhelming responsibility carried by the Vatican and its Jesuits in the starting of the two world wars, a situation which may be explained in part by the gigantic finances at the disposition of the Vatican and its Jesuits, giving them power in so many spheres, especially since the last conflict. R.W. Thomas said the Jesuits are the deadly enemies of civil and religious liberty. Napoleon, the Jesuits are a military organization, not a religious order. Their chief is a general of the army, not a mere father abbot of a monastery. And the aim of this organization is power in its most despotic exercise, absolute power, universal power, power to control the world by the violation of a single man, i.e. the Black Pope, the superior general of the Jesuits. Jesuitism is the most absolute of despotisms, and at the same time, the greatest and most enormous of abuses. Guys, it goes on and on. These are great men in history. James Parton, American historian. If you trace up Masonry through all its orders till you come to the grand tip-top head Mason of the world, you will discover that the dread individual of the chief of society of Jesus, i.e. the superior general of the Jesuit order, are one and the same person. And I'll stop there.
Real quick, is the page you're reading from on your website?
No, it's not.
Can you link it?
I will absolutely drop it into the link right now, everybody.
Thank you. Everybody's asking.
Yeah. So, and you know this, brother, what the Jesuits are and what they've been responsible for.
Well, the Vatican was the chief thing you said there. That's the V faction. They operate out of the Vatican, of course, the annals of probably. It would seem to me that they're the originators of all dissent on the planet right now, because if we're looking for, the way to stop Wetiko, it's stopping that type of activity on this planet. It's tough. It's so tough because we don't even consider that the aliens are quite literally how can anybody comprehend this as a possibility, right? Could it be 3.5 million years we've been sitting here coiling away? And yeah, I think that's the case. I think that's the terrible, terrible amnesic truth that we're coming through to, right? That's why I think it's so friggin' tough, because people they just don't want to wrap their heads around this, because it's a whole host of problems that they don't want to deal with. What does this mean if I have to deal with an alien contingent? What do I do? Like, what is my meaning with life? What's my purpose? These are existential questions that start to get thrown in, but it's because the Jesuits have had so much control over the narrative in politics.
Well, I got people here in the chat room telling me that the Jesuits created communism.
Yeah, exactly. That's the connection to China. Yeah, it's the whole mindset. The Machiavelli. It's communism kind of pulls Machiavellian concepts and Sun Tzuian concepts. Mm-hmm. So you have to wonder, this seems to be an invention of sorts, because it's like if you're looking at a machine and it's got a certain cog or something, it's a hallmark of another thing, sure. and that's what that is.
It's like Kwanzaa.
Sure.
You don't have to comment on that. It's just, it's just a bunch of things kind of thrown together. But yeah, so I'll tell you what, guys, you want to take a short break here, brother? I'm going to get some tea, fill my water again.
Yeah, we'll pick it up and attempt to transition some of this stuff into China and talking about that actual current war, I guess, and why does any of this crap matter for people, so they can.
Yeah, we'll jump into the current war and everything that we had lined up here, museums and history, right? We'll talk about that when we get back, and the revisionism. So we'll jump right in when we get back here. Mm-hmm. One more thing I wanted to. The amount of, back to the moon here, there's something very interesting I don't think I've ever read before. But the founding fathers and the occulted esoteric knowledge that came from the heavenly bodies as it was put into our system. And literally we built the nation with this. And this is, I don't know if you've ever heard this or not, if you know this, but I wanted to share this with you here. Mm-hmm. It says, our starting point had been a search for all possible sources with reliable measurement available from nature. And we found that there was one, the turning of the earth on its axis as seen by watching the movement of the heavens. It was possible to time the passage of the star, or in this case, the planet Venus, with reliable accuracy using a pendulum. The pendulum then turned a unit of time into a unit of length because of the time beat will always produce a fixed length with tiny variations due to latitude and altitude. It was then a simple matter to turn a unit of length into a measure of volume and capacity by creating cubes and filling them with liquid or dry goods such as barley or wheat. However, we were not prepared for the shock we received when we created a cube with sides of 4 megalithic inches and found that it held a pint that was accurate to the staggering 1 part in 5,000 against the standard laid down in the year 1601. Doubling the sides to 8 megalithic inches produced an accurate gallon, and doubling again produced the old dry measure known as a bushel. The mystery was compounded when we filled up a pint cube with barley and found that it weighed exactly 1 pound. Things turned from the sublime to the ridiculous when further experimentation showed that a sphere with a diameter of 6 megalithic inches held virtually 1 liter, and 10 times the size weighed a metric ton when filled with water, all to an accuracy of better than 99%. Okay. This is the measurement system that Thomas Jefferson took to Congress and said, we need to implement this measurement system as the standard for the United States of America. Remember, the United States of America was founded on esoteric, ancient occulted knowledge. All right, with the obelisk and the Capitol dome and the days and the time, the 4th of July, all that stuff. The measurement system that we use in America, and you wonder why we haven't gone metric yet? Guys, there's a very, very spiritual occultic reason for that, because the system that we're on, okay, right now is tuned to the speed and the rotation of the planet. It's a measurement of that time. Almost nobody realizes this.
Is that Christopher Knight you're reading from there? Is that what
Christopher Knight, yeah, and Alan Butler, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yep. So that's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, Joseph Farrell comments on this in his book Genes, Giants, Monsters, and Men as well, which is, I think it's basically a sequel to the one I showed earlier, The Cosmic War. It's still talking about that race. But who is the race that we get? The reason why all this stuff matters is because the moon as its own object is the reference point that verifies these measurements.
Sure.
If without the moon, all of that stuff that Christopher Knight wrote in his book would be, they wouldn't have been able to arrive at those conclusions because it's a massive variable in them calculating this stuff. But as you can see, Venus also has a lot to do with it as well. It's interesting to ponder on because we don't know why these things are the way they are. We don't know entirely. That's what this work's all about. It's starting to piece the picture together as to why it may be.
I think that we humans, are an integral part of, spiritually and emotionally and physically, a part of this spinning marble, the consciousness. I think it's all one. I don't mean to be over Easternly philosophical here, but when you look into everything you've studied in your work, everything that I've discovered in my time, the ancient knowledge, we are truly all tied together, from measurement to being to our DNA, and you can't not separate anything from anything else. It truly is mind-blowing, man.
Mm-hmm.
But real quick, just to finish off this thought here, later in our research, we came across a letter written by the great American statesman Thomas Jefferson, and sent it to the representative on the 4th, that he sent on the 4th of July, 1776. All right, that's Independence Day. He sent a letter that day stating, let's see here, a recommendation for a new system of weights and measures for the new United States that he had helped to establish. He gave his reasoning and described some usual facts he uncovered. He explained how he had realized that there was one aspect of nature that gave rise to any reliable unit of measure, which he named the turning of the earth. So like ourselves and the megalithic builders of 5 and 6 millennia before him, he used the heavens to provide a basis for all measurement. In his letter, he stated that he had come to realize the imperial system of measurement used in Britain was not an accumulation of unrelated units, as generally imagined. On the contrary, he said that their harmony indicated to him that they were members of a group of measurement units from very high antiquity. They're building into the measurement, and that translates into our architecture, and that translates into the doorways. And we have a guy, I'm sure you know, Paulo Solari, right? He was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright here in Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale area. Frank Lloyd Wright had his Arcosante. I'm sorry, he had his Taliesin West. And Paulo Solari believed that he was a metaphysician. He was into architecture and everything else, but he believed that he didn't say this, but he adopted the fact that architecture was frozen music and music was liquid architecture. And if you could build something just right, man would live in and among that architecture and become more than what he would have been without it. That it played a very crucial point. And that's the measurements, the actual measurements, and the volume of concrete that stands around you is resonance. It affects you visually, spiritually, physically, vibrationally. All
of the ancient temple structures that are placed on very key ley line points, that somehow, affect the telluric energy that runs underneath them, right? These are resonance chambers that when measured, all equate out to sacred Hertzian frequencies. And if you think about what brain waves are, that's all they are, is Hertzian frequencies. And so it doesn't take one much thinking to get to the conclusion that if you're inside one of these chambers and something is happening resonantly inside of this like you're saying, this liquid music note, or this solid music note that you're in,
Yeah.
rather, how that might affect your own structure of your consciousness. All sorts of possibilities open up, and there's a Russian scientist by the name of Konstantin Meyl, Meyl, Konstantin spelled with a K, and he has measured all these things and wonders why this is the case. He's a scalar wave scientist.
Oh, wow.
So he wonders why these things exist the way that they are. So we may or may not get to that point. It kind of lends itself just more credence to this ancient race. And,
we have another guest by the name of Doug619, and he says the FCC stands for the Frequency Control Cabal.
And there's V-steganography all over the FCC's logo too.
No shit.
All over it.
I did not know that.
It's got magnetism on it. The polarities. It's pretty blatant.
Oh damn! Look at that shit. Hold on, I'm gonna pull this up for everyone to see. You weren't kidding, brother. Wow! Look at that. Yeah, you weren't kidding. Wow.
Anything doing with the senses, and remember, anything that affects the senses is wavelength and frequency. So everything of the senses boils down to wavelength and frequency. If you can control that domain, you can so control the mind.
This is almost a sigil in so many ways. Well, and there's the Federal Communication. There it is. FCC. There's your V-steganography, brother, right there. You're spot on, aren't you?
Oh, it's
good work, man. Very good work. All right, let's dive into the current war. Take us away.
Well, wavelength and frequency is a really good segue to give to this, actually, because the current war is a meme that persists through the thread of the movie that came out, The Current War, which was all about the battle of alternating current and direct current, Tesla versus Edison. And it's a big Edison propaganda piece if anybody watches the movie. But I think we're gonna go into a fair amount of the why it matters to the ancient Earth history and what's being occluded as and why do the Jesuits have anything to do with it? Remember, the Jesuits are just the V-steganography that seems to cover all of it. They are the mind control faction, as far as any of this work shows. And so in that, as a production of a plan, if the Jesuits are the architects of war that we know them to be from the past, then the broadcast that has to happen for the spell to hold, for the spell to take place in the occult, has to come out somehow. And that's what this current war seems to be. The impetus of being the what we started with. The decision of whether or not to unlock the technology paradigm, which has everything to do with Tesla's work, or to keep suppressing it, which means that history remains secret. And those are the two factions I see. When I see Republicans and Democrats, I don't see Republicans and Democrats. I see faction that wants to go to space and faction that wants technocracy. They're the ones that think that cybernetics can turn somebody into a living machine organism and that you can live forever in a corporeal form. The guys in space, they've got their own agendas, but they're not as twisted either. They're capitalists, for as much as you might not like capitalists, but that's what this whole thing starts off with, is this concept of what is not being told to us in the current war that's playing out with China has everything to do with the current war. If that makes sense to people, that's kind of where the meme starts to unfold here. Everything with the V-steganography work as it relates to another channel of research that I do alongside it has to do with the Wizard of Oz, which there's a lot of V-steganography in there. Yep. Has a lot to do with covering up that whole mess of metaphysical brilliance that Nikola Tesla brought to our inventions, and only ever got to experience half of the equation because he dealt only with electricity and found out how the ether works and how it operates, but the travesty of his day was that he couldn't completely understand the magnetic quality, because if you're looking at what the actual trinity is, it's the dielectric, which is inertia, where nothing is. That's the concept of zero. That's basically where, if you can imagine, that's where God exists, where there's no motion, the center of the wheel. That's the inertia, the inertial plane, the dielectric. This is where the ether gets all of its energy from. This is how it spontaneously can create its magnetic spatial form in our environment, which always looks like a torus.
Mm-hmm.
And then the electricity, which is the manifestation of the combination of both. So Tesla got to deal a lot with the manifestation of the combination of both, knowing the mechanics of how it worked, but not having access to magnets that were powerful enough at the time, because they couldn't so zap a piece of metal to magnetize it like they can now.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't able to do even his whole range of experiments. What has been done with the magnets since, a lot has come out with the Bob Lazar research, and what he's shown is being done with that line. So it's very clear that this is also, because it's confirmed by actual U.S. generals like Stephen Quast, who gave a speech at Hillsdale College last year. Everybody needs to go watch that. It's an hour long, and he paints quite a clear picture that this is not conceptual technology, it's actual. And all we need do, even to power our cell phones, is to take the energy from the ionosphere.
What was his name?
Stephen Quast, Kwast. The talk he gave at Hillsdale College right before all this COVID nonsense started off. That was one of those things that got schlepped under the rug pretty quick. Because,
the urgent need for U.S. Space Force, that one?
Uh-huh. He's basically conceptualizing. He's a big. You can think of him as a chief marketing officer for this whole "I want to get to space" faction. They're clearly giving him permission to say what he's saying now, to sell some concepts to the public, to get us open. And it's interesting that Elon Musk is nowhere in the equation of that agenda. He's actually part of the technocrats. That's what's so really weird, maniacal about his whole thing. He's part of the rocket paradigm anyway. He's not part of promoting any of this new tech. Gotcha. Electric battery cars are not sustainable. They're a travesty on the Tesla name. And there's a little jab that Stephen Quast even says in there. And you know what he's saying if you have the ears to hear it. He's saying, oh, we're not going to, he says something like, we're not going to use the technology of Tesla for this. And he's not saying Nikola Tesla, of course. He's saying Tesla, the company, because they're clearly using all of Nikola's stuff. All from John J. Trump, all from the hands of John J. Trump to his nephew, who's in office right now. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of the primer for everybody, the primer or the sutra. In yoga, you have what's called a sutra, which is a thread by which other things can be understood. And that's the idea with memes. This is kind of the foundation and the underlayment of even all the stuff we were talking about leading into it in the earlier part of the show, explaining communism and all this kind of crap. It's just one side of this faction that's trying to hide all this stuff. And the current war that's playing out is one of history. It's one of a new technology paradigm. It's one of a new money paradigm. It's one where, people are actually going to die because of the blowback. The collateral damage of a bioweapon virus is just one aspect of this, and it's not everything. It's so just the tip of the iceberg. And God, if everybody would put a scuba suit on, I guess that's what we're hopefully going to certify some people in today is iceberg scuba diving with these topics.
Yeah. So the current war, as you don't know, is a 2017 American historical drama inspired by a 19th century competition between Edison and George Westinghouse, right? And it was about basically the DC versus AC, right? Struggle.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. But this is an interesting note. This was co-produced by Harvey Weinstein. Mm-hmm. And that has anything to do with anything. He was a filmmaker, aside from being a weirdo. But that is interesting to note there. What in the name here, the current war, for electricity. This has to do with when I look at these topics, we of course, you and I approach these from differently from our different foundations of knowledge base. But I see a ever progressing and unfolding of technology. Do you think that this technology was happened upon by accident, or do you think it was dripped in to people like Edison and like Westinghouse and like Tesla? Do you think it was dripped into them the same way, I don't know, like Facebook was dripped into Zuckerberg and he allowed, and Elon Musk? I personally believe Elon Musk is a front man for this new technology that is being dripped into society to normalize it, to take us to the next level.
Yeah, Elon Musk, it's a kind of here's the thing. It's not one answer for all. So let's talk about each one of the individuals. In my eyes, Elon Musk, I think you're right. But to be clear, I think he's against actually getting to space. That's the whole trick. I'm for space. I'm reusing my rockets and all this stuff. When it's so yesterday's news, there's a guy everybody should look at for metaphysics concepts. His name's Ken Wheeler, and he has a wonderful little 4 F's. He's got these 4 F's. Society advances by feet. So you got nomads, right? Then by feed. So you've got agriculture. You're feeding your animals. Then fuel, which is kinetic, explosive technology. That's what the paradigm that we've been sold.
Oh, so this guy
and
here.
Theoria Apophasis is his YouTube channel.
He does stuff on films, right? He's a photographer.
He's a photographer too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so his two things. He's a Greek translator. He knows ancient Greek. Mm-hmm. He knows Russian. He knows Sanskrit. He's a linguist. So
he's one of these guys that is so smart.
Yes.
So smart. He's hard to watch. He is socially dysfunctional to some extent. He looks like his
wife died a couple of years ago. He gained a ton of weight after his wife died.
Okay.
If you actually look at his videos when he first started doing them, he was mostly doing Sanskrit, metaphysics, Greek, and he was much skinnier. It's very sad to see that his health got the way it is, and it's a kind of a sad story because it sounds like his wife died of cancer very slowly over years and years. But
this guy is so smart, though. You can see the struggle with his own intelligence, and he is not understood by 99.9% of the world. He feels, you can tell the way he tries to describe things. But if you guys haven't ever seen this gentleman, he's worth checking out.
Oh yeah, he's the bee's knees, as it were, with anything metaphysics. It is one of the only places that I can get schooled on stuff these days is his channel, and I love it because he has these types of concepts. He has really easy metaphors for people, for the mind to understand, and this is one of them. Feet, feed, fuel, fields, and that's the progression. Once we get to fields, manipulating of magnetic and the dielectric fields, the ether, that propulsion technology is all there is. That's then you iterate and perfect that. So it is the next step, and we've been there for a while, it would seem. But Elon Musk against, right? We're talking about who these factions are that are for it, and I think people like who are some of the other ones you mentioned? I'm even forgetting because I got off tangent with Ken Wheeler. You'd mentioned.
We had where are we at here? Edison, Westinghouse, Tesla.
Edison, Westinghouse, Tesla. Yeah, so Tesla, it would seem, just because of the behavior that the establishment used to push back against him, was utter brilliance. He was one of those people who got the intuitive knowledge, and he was a gift to humanity at a time when humanity needed him, who was able to actually interpret the teachings of Roger Boscovich with his book, Theoria Naturalis, the theory of natural philosophy, which is you can get for free online. It's translated from Latin into English, but it's the most difficult book that I've ever attempted to read. I've only penetrated a quarter of it, and your brain starts to explode. It's called Theoria Naturalis.
Okay.
in Latin, or the theory of natural philosophy in English, and it's translated into both. That was Nikola Tesla's Bible, and that's what I mean by in it. He only got really to experiment with about half of the things he could have if he had better technology at the time. But Westinghouse also seems to be like one of these capitalists, has his own things to be gained in the process. You have really weird associations with, of course, the secret societies, especially at these times, and how those factions around when Nikola Tesla is alive, how their battles are playing themselves out in the invention realm. And of course, this is when the rise of the Nazis is all coming about. This starts to get all very, very confusing, because it would seem that there's a lot of this technology, of course, if this ancient race, which existed and still exists, and maybe has something to do with who Yahweh is, one of these gods, right? These god creatures that interacted with us maybe to a larger degree physically in Hebraic times.
You want to pull that? You want to pull anything up here?
Not quite yet.
Don't be shy. Okay.
But, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, probably right after this is be good timing for that. But there's technology to be found out there, which is what it would seem is happening, and we'll find more about as the things in Antarctica become more apparent over the next few years as to what the heck is going on down there. And there also seems to be the contingent where I think we necessarily had to be the labor to help invent back to a spacefaring society for whatever means that were originally designed, versus what means we are now taking for ourselves. Because kind of like the Fremen on the planet Arrakis in Dune, it's up to us to figure out that this stuff is happening in the first place and use the strengths that we have to, we're the ones that invented the technology now. Yeah, let's keep what's to prevent us from using it against them type of a thing. So yeah, that's kind of the thought.
Speaking of which, how much would you pay for a steel suit?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know if it would be a very enjoyable experience. Drinking your own pee and stuff. It's
just through it. I've been backpacking hiking since I was like 5, and I saw Dune the first time. Like, a still suit. Oh my god, you could retain like 99.5% of your water.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like, if I don't know if they show this in the movies so much, but in the book, they drain the blood of all of their deceased, and they have a very specific way in which they extract the water from the blood. Yeah, it's crazy.
He gives us his water.
Yeah. I really, really like the whole Dune series. I gotta go reread it.
Yeah, that's one that Alicia needs to watch with me. I'm trying to catch her up on some movies that she wasn't permitted to watch in her Mormon youth.
Well, the new one's coming out. Probably the best iteration of it's coming out later this year in December. Yeah.
I like the second remake as opposed to the first. The first one's its own thing, but the second remake was done so well.
I read one of the books
a
long time ago.
Okay.
But I didn't ever see the film.
Yeah,
I had to sneak the book,
Yeah.
I did.
Did you?
I did. I had to sneak the book.
All right. Well, okay. So we talked about that.
So I know the piece you were going to bring up too, the article. We mentioned Yahweh, and I know, so it kind of lends credence to
right there.
Well, I can't see the screen on your end, but I'm going to pull it up on mine.
Okay.
So because I can.
Face of God, archaeologist claims to find 10th cent BCE graven image of Yahweh.
That's right. So this article, I actually came across this article because I follow Joseph Farrell's blog, and Joseph Farrell's the guy that we're talking about who wrote these books. And so he blogs about these kind of things all the time. My conclusion about this is not real. I don't really have a conclusion, rather. I have a pondering about this stuff. I've done some work on my channel relating Yahweh to the Book of Enoch and the types of interactions basically that Enoch had with this God race at the time. And if you read Andrew Collins' work alongside Joseph Farrell's work, this becomes more apparent because Andrew Collins goes into this fallen race of people who are called the Watchers, and they seem to be exiled from something that happened even further back. And this seems to be that partially related to this war. And I think this partially also relates to the lore in the Bible about these people that came unto women. You occupy the planet, even your most scientific people, the Watchers. A Watcher translates to an observer or scientist. Sure. It's nothing more than somebody who takes notes and writes things down. Just think about this. Wetiko, we were talking about earlier, conceptualize Wetiko overcoming these alien beings, and they, just as the tales go in the Hebraic texts, they start mating with humans, and bad crap starts to happen. The DNA doesn't mix so well. Genetic experiments have to ensue to correct for this. A Garden of Eden is constructed to house genetic experiments to see if the eugenic process can cleanse the DNA. This is why eugenics is a weird term, because to the letter of its definition, it just means to cleanse DNA. We've associated it with genocide and all these things because of how it's been used. But conceptually speaking, there were even, in ancient Egypt, these cleansing temples that proper, like divinely guided eugenics was practiced. It's like eliminating cancer from your body, if you can just think about it from that level.
Yeah, and there's always been eugenics programs within the human race, from the simplest form, which is positive eugenics, to the negative eugenics of wiping out and genocide. But positive eugenics is what people do every single day when they marry off their children. Right, in India and even in America, baby, you were, let me go to Alicia here. You were born into a Mormon family.
Yes.
Positive eugenics was about marrying off your daughter or son to somebody with good genes and prospects and intelligence and everything else.
Yes.
Mormons take that very seriously.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do, and they
closer.
They also have, they have a social component to that sort of. They couch it in, you go on a mission and you serve a mission, and that mission makes you a worthy mate. And
so the eugenics is sewn into the proliferation of and continuation of the religion itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
We talked about that the other day. So for those of you who have a knee-jerk reaction to eugenics, like I used to, you have the Pi tribes in Arizona. The Wallapai, the Yavapai, the Havasupai, and the Pai Pai. Well, the Pai Pai are no longer here. They're in Mexico because they practiced incest. And that was entropy in terms of eugenics. And they kicked them out of the state through warfare. They just recently allowed them back in again. You and I had met a Mormon family, huge Mormon family, at one of the national parks. We're all in the shade there. These people you could see they were a little inbred. They were from a small town.
No, they were not just a little inbred. This was a couple of generations in.
Yeah, I want to be nice. But.
Well, be honest, the children had problems, and they had bone formations, and they this was not a group of people that you would want your child to connect with and marry.
Yeah, and if you think about that, and I've been thinking about since that was a powerful moment. I was wondering why we sat there for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours in that moment. But that is a lasting impression. And I thought back to the Native Americans. I thought back to ancient Egypt. I thought back to all the little societies and civilizations throughout the human journey. And Ben, I can only imagine you have these isolated pockets of humanity. This was probably before mass trade and sustainable agriculture. Eugenics was a big deal to carry on and make sure that you were marrying a good family. Today, we just go to high school, fall in love, and freaking breed. Back in the day, that act of marrying somebody and having a child and continuing your family lineage, that was taken as sacred duty.
Well, the Mormons also back in the day had, because they practiced polygamy before the the rules in the country said they couldn't. they were marrying their cousins, and their gene pool was very small for quite a while. Now those families are trying to stretch their gene pool within the historical families in the church, the Smith line and the Young line. They're trying to expand their gene pool and try not to marry their cousins, because they have also run into the same problems that many generations of this, like what we saw the other day in the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually, it degrades the intelligence capacity as well. And this is actually what a lot of the elites are running into these days, because they've inbred the banker class. Let's just call them the guys that the technocrats and the banker class. They're the ones on the left, not really jiving with this space agenda, as it would seem. And these are the same guys that aren't really that intelligent, because they've inbred that, and their own kids aren't very capable. Their own kids, it's funny, because their own kids have been subject to these really shitty education systems that have been put out there as well. And they just didn't think out the plan far enough in advance to think that they couldn't also be affected by it. But it's like, I think I forgot what verse in the Bible it said. Part of the prophecy was that one day the bellies would be of dust. It's kind of like that whole children of men. Oh, geez, the women won't be able to have children anymore. And when you decode that text, it's because of things like this. The DNA would be so degraded that reproducing would be a task in and of itself, to find reputable mate to where you can, even your blood type matched with. I think that's part of what's going on these days too, is blood types don't mix very well, and you just have problems.
Sure. And I try to look at everything we're going through from the micro and the macro. And have you ever put yourself in the position of a global Illuminati elite? And have you ever just in your mind played for a second and pretended that you were approached by Tom Cruise? let's use a Scientologist. And he said, Ben, Skullcap, we've had our eye on you for quite some time, and we feel we've gone through all your lineage and your blood. We've seen your work. You are one of the bloodlines that are pure. Do you want in? Do you want in this group? We're going places right now. We're going to be off planet probably before the end of your life. If not, your kids will be there. We are going to implement a system of economic control, vaccinations to control people's breeding. We are going to get rid of people through cancer on the medical. But if you want to be part of the breakaway society as we cleanse the mess that is, we went through a natural progression. We had to go through this mess to get where we're at now. But now that we're here for the good of the species, we're going to eradicate all of that and move forward in purity. You want in?
No, I'm too much of a yogi. Nothing. All of this is Maya, right? It's all of the illusion.
Yeah.
To succumb to the illusion for any sort of gain is just so silly to me. Yeah.
I wonder how many people would say, "Yeah, y'all got good whiskey, right?"
Yeah.
Sure.
It's the guy in the Matrix that was eating the steak. I forgot the character's name. But he wants back in. He
Cypher.
Cypher. Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, his name is Cypher. You're right.
Cypher.
Yeah. The guy that is tricked by the V Cypher. That's funny. Or so. Yeah, it's. I think it's. I would hope that the humanity could be restored to the entire population. That question is always a non-starter. To where they're just, are you kidding me? This is a question. Get the hell out of here, because that is all Jesuit casuistry. Is the enticement, the entanglement with the gain. There's nothing else that will drive the impetus for those activities. Yeah.
That's what it is. All right. Well, what do you think of communism overall, man? What do you think of the political philosophy called communism and how it relates to everything we're doing? That's been a big topic here. I am extremely anti-communism. I understand that communism over the last century has killed over 100 million people through famine, political killings, and genocide alone. It has been probably the highest and most prolific form of democide we have encountered as a human species in recent history. They probably even killed more than they didn't have these population numbers back before they did what they did, between Mao and Stalin and Pol Pot and all those guys, Castro, fucking even that son of a bitch, Che Guevara, that everyone loves to idolize.
Yeah.
He's a scumbag as well. But here's the thing about communism is it doesn't just, like I said earlier, we started out, it doesn't just steal your, it doesn't just kill faith and religion and belief and morality. It kills the human soul. It kills hope. It kills ambition. It kills that spark that we as Americans know better than any other people on earth, because we are born, thank God, and I count my lucky stars and thank the Creator every day I was born in this country. We were born into a system, more so then than now, than our kids are, of absolute freedom, to where that spark is naturally nourished within the infrastructure where we were born into. Communism snuffs that out through absolute total control. That's my opinion of it. And it's been rebranded, it's been remarketed, and it's been redeployed in terms of socialism. And then the Democrat Party now has gone completely, in my opinion, totally left-wing radical. It's been hijacked by their own radical portion of it. And from there, they had to rebrand again to, we're democratic socialists. So they just keep rebranding because communism cannot sell itself. It is tyranny. It knows it cannot sell itself. It's been deceptive throughout this last 100 years. And it's here again under a new suit, but it's the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on it? I mean,
well, that's a good question. I'll unpack this a little bit. I think communism isn't as dangerous as everybody thinks it is. It's not like safety scissors, maybe, right? If you choose to really slice yourself up good with those safety scissors, you can technically do it. But you actually have to make the conscious decision to do it, and that's kind of what communism is. It's not as a thing very dangerous, because it in and of itself isn't really the thing that controls. It's you've always got such a choice with how you view the perspective of things, because that's all it really has. It has empty perspective and promises and a way that is helps you drink the Kool-Aid. It's sweet enough, makes sense. It's simple. The simple mind can comprehend it, and therefore it ascribes different triggers to things that are not. But the main thing is that it would make it seem that this idea of sameness is
equality.
But specifically what equality they're asking for is sameness, specifically sameness, and not like the "we are all one" divine concept that you're talking about. Those are very different things.
Yeah, they want equality or sameness of outcome. They want the outcome to be the same, not the opportunity.
And to quash the individual specifically in doing so. They can gain the communists, that we're talking about in this conversation, people who ascribe to a communist belief system would have it be that the individual freedoms are crushed from everyone. Therefore, their individual creativity, the output that they can give to the world. And these things, of course, because everybody's going after, the collectivism that then ensues dictates that everybody goes after the same pie. And but the sweet language, the propaganda that's shared there is, oh, this pie tastes so good, everybody's going to want to eat it. And then so pretty soon everybody's descended on the position of that there's not enough for everybody. And this is the lie that really the number 15 tarot card really describes. If anybody's into myth, this is the thing that best describes it. The 15 tarot card is the devil. And it is, if you've never seen it, it's the devil, however he's depicted, holding two chains, and one on his right he's got a male, and on our right he has a male, and on our right he has a female. But interestingly enough about those bonds is that the bonds themselves are loose. Therefore, They're not locked into place. You can slip, if you are that man or that woman, you can slip off those bonds at any time just by slipping it off. And that's the trick. You're so ingrained in Wetico that we were talking about earlier with this mindset that you don't even realize that you've already been ensnared in the trap. But it's so easy to get out, just like a Chinese finger trap, funny enough, right? We're talking about CCP. You just, and you break it apart. You have to switch your thinking around. And that's all it is with communism too, is that it would have this voluntary destruction of the individual, which is to totally give away creative control. And for those not aware, creative frequency that's generated in your brain, when you're being creative, when you're focused on creative activity, writing music, playing music, reading, researching, whatever, you're emitting the theta frequency. But the opposite polarity of the theta frequency is hypnosis. So here's the frequency that we're playing around with again. It is hypnosis of the mind. This whole mindset that one gets themselves into, that gets them down this train of thought, is a hallucination of the hypnosis that they're under, that the answer to breaking out of is just seeing that they're under said hypnosis and making different decisions. New neural pathways and everything have to be carved in the brain. It's not as easy as just making the decision. Habits have to be formed. These conscious decisions have to break you out of it. That's why, telling somebody to have a more open mind doesn't really work in an argument. It's just not gonna. It's not gonna get you anywhere.
Yeah, it's like tell someone to calm down.
Yeah. It's tough. There's diplomacy to all this stuff, and that's the key, is to help people, I think, realize, oh, geez, I can't believe I've been in this communist way of thinking for so long.
And that's another theme we talk about quite a bit here, is it's easier to convince someone of a lie than to convince them they've been lied to. How do you like with the damn masks? How do you take somebody who has went out there and bought a bunch of masks and bought a new one, and you got this father of a family of your, let's say, your standard nucleus family. You have a strong young man, 40 years old, raising a family with a beautiful wife and a nice house and a boy and a girl. He went out and got the best mask he could afford, because that's what they do to stay safe. And they wear it for 2 months, and they're being the ideal model citizens and doing their job for society, and they've bought into it all. How do you convince those people that it was a lie? How do you convince them? Because now you're not fighting the lie anymore. You're fighting this guy's equity into the lie. And he's going to look like a fool. He's going to, I have the ability. I made this choice years ago, reading Carlos Castaneda books. I separated myself from my ego when I was 19. And I did mental exercises and thought experiments for years until I was able to separate myself from myself and admit that I am not me on a fundamental level, and say, oh, look what I used to believe. Well, there's a truer truth now, and that's no longer true. I move on. Okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to grab this truth, and we're going to move forward, because that's the only way it's going to get better. I can do that easily. My mind can be changed just like that when there's a truer truth. But most people, they can't. I have an aunt who voted for Clinton, both of them, who has, when I show the murders and the death list and Mena, Arkansas, and everything they've been involved in, and Vince Foster, because she's personally wrapped up in that, she will never do it. This is the same thing with all political philosophy and ideals. And that's where communism shines through in its ability. It really is a good trickster.
And it's why truth is its best weapon, but fighting, you asked, how do you convince the people that aren't seeing it? And you probably can't. And that's probably not the right energy to be putting toward it. Rather, in a manner of speaking, just in general, creating more truth out there, right? It's because it's all the deleterious effect of what's not being said in the propaganda that confuses everybody. Like, even for COVID-19, it would be over if we as a country just freaking called this thing a bioweapon. Oh, it's a bioweapon? Okay, great. Oh, there's a way that you protect yourself against it with vitamin C and vitamin D, copious amounts of it. Okay, got it. Check. good. We're going to be good. And none of this factors in. None of this crap has to factor in. But the fact that bioweapon is not a term that's said in mainstream media is anywhere. None of the channels say bioweapon. That's the trickery right there. And so then it becomes, you know, in my opinion, guys like you and me, we got to go talking about the things that aren't being talked about to a degree that all of a sudden the preponderance of evidence grows. And as we're finding now, the mainstream media it's not even the mainstream media anymore. It's just a moniker it has. Fewer people are watching that, I think, than going to alternative sources. So in that way, that is kind of what's happening. Patience is also a virtue, I suppose, in the process, because people also have actual things called adjustment periods. It's a grieving process. You go, you know, I think I've told you before, I mentor teenagers. Yeah. And one of the models that we have for them is, we call it the 4 A's. Everything in our program is 4s. It happens in 4s, but it's like a 4-step program. And first thing you have to do with anything that comes to your awareness is you have to be aware of it. You can't ignore it. You have to be aware of the thing. And then step 2, like in COVID's case, right? You have to be, everybody wanted to deny it was happening in February. What? Yeah, this is, what are you talking about? This is all a conspiracy. And then boom, it hits you in the face. Oh, this isn't the conspiracy I thought. So acceptance is the next step. So you got awareness, then acceptance. And acceptance is, it speaks for itself. Harder said than done. That's where the grieving process occurs. In fact, every time somebody has to accept something, the neural pathway that's carved in the brain is the same as the grieving process on a smaller scale. It goes the same way. So you have to go through fear and grief and bargaining and, you know, all of these 6 steps before you accept it. Some people are better at that than others. People who have a better foundation in critical thought, they can get over that step very rapidly. They'll still go through it psychologically, but it might be with a snap of a finger. Step 4 is adjustment, or step 3, is adjustment. So you got awareness, acceptance, adjustment. Adjustment is where, you take what you've just accepted. How does it apply to me? Okay, I have to put this action into place. How do I factor this into my paradigm? And then you healthily have perspective on it. Then you advance. So advancement means now you step outside your comfort zone and create a whole new comfort zone. And that process has to repeat itself continually for a person to grow. It's called the growth. Growing your learning zone, I think is what we've deemed it. But there you go, the 4 A's: awareness, acceptance, adjustment, advancement. If you're not doing these things, you don't have the tools to overcome any of these problems, and you're doing it wrong, quite frankly.
And to live in truth and to progress in truth. And you'll be stuck in a thought paradigm, and you'll be used. Your vote will be used, your energies will be used, your time will be used. You will parrot their beliefs and thought structure to others to continue their ritual. You'll be used in that. How do I phrase this? Are we currently going through a grieving process collectively for the loss of our previous normal society of going out into the movies and eating in parks and parties? Are we currently grieving? Are these 4 A's, are these attributable to the enemy as well? Would they use this as well? Make you aware of the COVID, then you're going to accept the COVID, then you're going to go through the adjustment period, well, that's going to be coming soon. And then we're going to advance into the New World Order.
Yeah, of course. And it's a very easy litmus test. If you know for a fact that you have control, because you do have control over that 4A process. If it's being told to you and you're taking hook, line, and sinker, something somebody else says without putting it through that process yourself, it's pretty easy to know, am I consciously putting this through my own filter? If you're not, then you know you're not. And you don't have to lie to anybody about this, but too many people are they're letting that process be hijacked because that is the messaging. The messaging has all that stuff nicely packed up so you don't have to think about it. Because thinking hurts. It literally hurts because you have to carve new gray matter. You have to carve new channels through your gray matter. There's little microscopic tiny tunnels that you need to create. and you have to carve away actual brain matter to create these new pathways.
I would argue that we have been neuralistically programmed in the software that we use, in the kind of like how a slot machine programs the user with the dings and the and the dopamine releasing sounds and lights that shine. These things right here have programmed us in order to accept these things, and they just use the formula. Like you said, it's like a code already embedded into it, and we just assimilate the information.
Yeah,
and accept the process.
And back to your grieving question too. This is absolutely, everybody's going through this grieving process. They're grieving so much. People are grieving the people that they know are going to die eventually in this. This is a 3-year-long bioweapon proceeding. All the military journals out there agree that 3 years is how long it takes for a bioweapon to run its course. And so people psychically already feel that they probably haven't experienced as much death in their families. So they're actually kind of just waiting for the next shoe to drop. Crap, not that many people around me have died, but I know in the fall that might not be true. So they're grieving actual death. They're grieving the supply chain being done. All of the inventory reports came out this last week. Every single category: car parts, non-clothing retail, clothing retail, kitchenware, you name it. The warehouses are running out of stuff to sell. And this was stuff I was saying back in February that
you were
friggin' ready. And once that stuff's gone, Christmas is not going to be Christmas this year, guys. Christmas is probably never going to be the same again. So there's another thing people are grieving. Oh, the holidays. I've already started seeing people talking about Halloween. What are you doing? Like your naivety and your nuance with what you need to apply to moving forward here is not there. And so they're grieving not being able to buy stuff. I'm going around all the commercial real estates, starting to go out even worse than 2008. It's becoming dilapidated all around Phoenix, and nobody's going to have jobs pretty soon. We got 60 million continued unemployment claims going right now. The airlines haven't laid people off yet because of the stimulus. The automakers haven't done this. All the biggest employers in the country haven't laid anybody off because of all of the stimulus. Those layoffs haven't hit yet. They're coming in the fall. We're going to have 100 million people unemployed. There's not going to be any income generated, and there's not going to be anything to buy. So there's no way to generate money and nothing to buy. People are definitely grieving this process because we are the most materialistic race that's probably ever existed. Well, materialistic iteration of the human race, I should say, that might have ever existed. We're a product. So we just have to not be products anymore. And it takes this adjustment process and the grieving and the fear, and the acceptance phase is just going to take a while. We're not going to get to the adjustment phase until, I suspect, we've got some new technology paradigm in our hands to tinker around with there,
That's where, and I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. You know that, partner. That's just I've had a rough life. And I'm willing to grab my machete and freaking hack through it. It's just what I do. That's going to be the scary part, I think. This new, if you have a different, view on that, I'd love to hear it. But this new acceptance portion is going to be the chip. It's going to be the new card you're going to get that has all your medical and your financial and your information, and it's going to be embedded right here in the back of your hand. That's going to be the new adjustment period. There'll be the new light rail that'll pick you up at the corner and drive you into your job, or you'll work from home even. You won't own a car anymore because you don't have nowhere to go, and you can't afford to keep it up. So the cars will be, they'll do buyback programs, and you'll just rent a car for the weekend if you need to go somewhere, or you'll take a Google car, something like that. That'll be the adjustment period, I think.
It's the attempted one for them. Yeah.
Smaller houses, right? A lot of smaller houses.
I don't think that just like these spells that keep fizzling, let's say, is to borrow like an RPG term. The agenda for that to happen I don't know if it might be like the bark is worse than the bite situation, because you have to choose to opt in to these things for one. And it's really interesting to see the demographics of the people that are doubting even the vaccines. They're having a really hard time marketing this to the people that they thought they were going to have as shoo-ins for to be the tip of the spear, to just penetrate the whole population.
It's going to take a gnarly virus that has people bleeding out of their noses and eyeballs in public to take a vaccine.
Well, and the thing people need to realize, this isn't a vaccine. Like the weird thing about anti-vaccine versus vaccine, it's actually one that people should probably be more specific with their terms. Read Plague of Corruption, everybody. It's Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s publishing house. What's her name that wrote that book? It's escaping me now. But this is a really contemporary thing to read that really sums it up. It's called Plague of Corruption. Okay. And it's a good perspective to take, because anti-vaxxers aren't really even anti-vaccine. They're anti whatever the hell we're taking now, because these aren't vaccines. You can't tell me what the vaccine label is a vaccine any longer. We haven't had a proper vaccine for decades.
We've had poison.
We've had whatever. Yes.
We've had a eugenics program.
Yeah, a really bad one, and one that they're.
Oh, Plague of Corruption by Judy Mikovits.
There you go, Mikovits. There we go.
Yeah.
And all rights showing that this whole thing that you're talking about with abortion numbers, all of the byproducts of those, the cellular stem cells get put into vaccines all the time. There's a lawsuit going on in Italy right now where there are 6 different vaccines that have various functions. It's this cocktail that they give the infants. I forgot what they call it over there in Italy, but there was a company that measured this to test it for, the litigation, and none of the ingredients that says are on the side of this vaccine are actually in there. It's 100% a different formula than anything that they put in there. And it's a bunch of weird stuff. Nanoparticulates of metals that you've heard about, the same ones being used in the chemtrail programs, aborted fetus parts in a lot of cases. So it has to, I think that also has to do probably with how the mindset all of a sudden, because you've always had a pretty predictable distribution of people that were gay and lesbian or trans, or they used to call them transsexual, right?
Throughout history, from the beginning of time.
And it's been consistent. And so it's predictable. Only now do we get this rise. So there's the mind component to it. But there's also, I think there might be a physiological component, because if you're a male getting injected with female stem cells with these vaccines, that could also have a potential to, one might think, even a layman in biology, think that might not be so good for a male to get injected with female parts.
Oh, hell no. I also look towards nature, and you see that different animal species will turn gay when they're overpopulated. They will turn gay when they're stuck into a big city or a closed area. Homosexuality goes up as well. It has to do with pheromones naturally occurring in the body. Like, let's say you and I, we're in the country, we live in a small town of 200 people, and we work on a farm all day. You walk into the shop and you see Betty Lou, selling a sack of flour. You smell her. It's the first woman you smelled all day, right? Or all week maybe. And there's pheromones, and you look at her and she looks at you, and it's like, boom, you got natural biological sexual attraction. When you're around everybody all the time in these tight spaces, you become immune more so to these pheromones, and the attraction of the opposite sex is nullified. It's dampened because they're there all the time. It's not like it used to be when we hunted and gathered and worked and sweat. And then you put on top of that the need not to procreate due to the modern economic system, and you can just go play. Why do you want kids? Because kids are expensive, and you got that. And Then you add the whole culture and the drugs. It's not a coincidence that homosexuality ramps up before the destruction and collapse of every civilization in the history of the human species. Both Greece and Rome and Egypt, homosexuality ramped up.
What do you attribute that to? What kind of, maybe a playbook of sorts?
Yeah, exactly. It could be a playbook, but it could also be just the natural progression of the decadence of the way humans operate and behave without a fixed set of rules, without that other dynamic of energy, coming against you, without the evil or that hardship coming at you, keeping you pure and clean. The Hopis. I look at the Hopis when I talk about this, because when they came out of the Sipapu from the third world to the fourth, they started spiraling around Turtle Island. They went out and they came in, and they went out and they came in. Did it 7 times until they came to the spot 4 times that they're at now on first, second, and third mesa. And they camped at the top of these mesas, but the springs were at the bottom. And they say, my Hopi friends say, we were put here, and the Masao, for the creator, said, camp here at the tops. So you have to go down and get water every day in your vessels. Camp here in the desert where it's hot. This will keep you pure. This will keep your hearts pure and clean. Those of you people who stopped off on the spiral out and in, they will become decadent and corrupt. That's why today the Hopis are the knowledge and the story keepers for Turtle Island or North America. Society is a lot like that. Wherever you have a harder life of physical labor and self-sacrifice, you find your values and morals generally preserved to a greater extent, because that's that balance. That's the work that has to be done to maintain that. You come into the cities where life it's a different kind of hardness, but when you look at monarchy, they have everything they want. Look at the elite in Hollywood. They have all the women they want. They have all the drugs they want. They have all the best alcohol they want. They have all the boats they want. What do you do then? You push it and you become perverted and twisted. And that's, I believe, why not just, and I think it's represented in the sexuality of homosexuality as we ramp up, but I think it also shows equally in other aspects of our society.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to think, going back to the communist thing, this all seems real suspicious when you see how we are acting right now would seem to benefit China. China has if China is the expression of Wetiko, is basically the most maniacal representation of Wetiko. And not China the country, the Chinese Communist Party. We have to be real clear about this, because China's billions of people, tons of good people there, but it's the Chinese Communist Party that we have issue with. And the mechanisms by which it would seem that we're acting out these depravities, if given the option not to, we don't naturally resonate here. It's when given temptations to tempt us that we have a propensity toward. So to the person who, or group or faction, party, whatever, that may benefit from our attention being so consumed, one way to think about it is we're the main competition for production. These are the things that China has come to represent. They've put all of their cards, all of their chips into pumping crap out and doing it quickly, but not necessarily doing it well. And the same hack job, I think, can be applied, in other words, to the mind control aspects of whatever it is in this current war situation that we're in. It's kind of a crappy hack job. It's an artifact of how crappy their processes are. They're kind of like half-assed and half thought out, which is good for us.
Sure.
But sucks that we have to go through this mess that has been created too. And then even in Greece's aspects, where, of course, the most sexualized society, the collapse of Greece is written about. And if anybody reads Thucydides or anything about the Peloponnesian War and the events that lead up to this, the decadence, like you're saying there, would also seem to not be a natural aspect of Greece. Greece, in my eyes, when I associate things with Greece, that very short period of decadence, doesn't even hold a candle to the metaphysics and the Platonic philosophy and the thought and mathematics and understanding of language and sacred ratios. And these are all from Greece. So clearly something is happening there where all of a sudden all of that just changes. And there are similar beats with America too. I don't think America ever rose to be quite the example that Greece or Egypt were, right? But thus is the nature of the Yuga cycle. Now we're on the ascending cycle. It's going to take us 6,000 years to get back to the golden age where our brains are all unlocked again. And it's the long game, but it would behoove us to know about communist tactics, mind control, current war situations, so we can.
One of the most prominent, and it's just the way it is. One of the most prominent, say, weapons or tools that communists used was homosexuality and sex in general. When you go through, the 40s, the 20s, 30s, 40s, when communism was infiltrating our country, you saw that they would bring young women in, and they would also promote homosexuality, and you would have the women get the guys in, and they would get them into communist party things, and all equal, and we can share. And it sounds great when you're young, right? It sounds great. Hey, we can all have it together, and we're all being progressive. It doesn't work that way. It never, ever, ever works out that way. But they then use the homosexuality against you the same way pedophilia has been used by Epstein and those. You will always find in the communist playbook the proliferation of homosexuality. That is one of their cornerstones of infiltrating foreign countries and foreign governments. That's what it does. And they do it, in my opinion, it's done to destroy the nuclear the nuclear family.
From a strategic perspective, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
It cuts off a means of reproduction for your population. And again, this is the mind controlled aspect. I only speak to the outlier statistics in this stuff. It's because, again, the natural tendencies of homosexuality, they just remain constant. They're always there. And
about
people
3%.
are always
3% of the human population is naturally, homosexual.
Yeah, I think that's about right. There was, I forgot what her name was. There was somebody who was on the Joe Rogan Experience who did a book. She was I can't remember her name now, but she was just on basically a month ago, and she wrote a book. She wrote for the maybe it was the Guardian. God, I usually am better with details, but I haven't gone back and watched the podcast to get the details again. I usually do that with these types of topics. She wrote a book investigating the preponderance rate of transgender girls, specifically in high schools, because among the female population, the preponderance, it's staggeringly uncharacteristic. And why this was the case was not a question she wanted to ask. Obviously, this is a very hot button topic, but moms were actually writing to her saying, I don't know where else to turn. I've always trusted your column. Please investigate this. I don't know where else to go with this stuff. And so she starts to be like, oh, crap. All right. She takes up the torch, and she starts down a well similar to those that you yourself have been down and, regret going down in the first place, I'm sure. But she finds compelling enough evidence to suggest, crap, I got to keep going. And the stuff that is found out in her book, Abigail Schreier. I just got my name. Allison just slipped me a note here.
Okay.
Abigail Schreier is her name.
Thank you, Allison. Abigail Schreier.
Yeah, this is actually a really important topic for us because we work with so many teens, right? And guys are both struggling with different things, but that's why I know so much about this anyway. So the girls that are being labeled as transgender, they're self-labeling, and turns out when you do this, the friction that exists to effectively change your own gender as of like the age of 11 or 12 is non-existent, meaning any girl can choose to go buy testosterone or get these get these wraps. I forgot what they were called, where they flatten the breasts and they actually do a lot of damage to the breasts. And
Sure.
And anybody can go get breast reduction surgery. All of these things are somehow, when it's in the transgender category, you're able to go get doctoral help. You don't need a parent note. You don't need anything. And it's crazy. You can just go willy-nilly, without knowing who you are, while you're going through puberty, where you're questioning everything. You can change your life. And this was the permanently. And this was the thing that changed her opinion on all this. She said, this is messed up, because this doesn't just happen. There's regulation for everything. Why is this the case? And everybody just watch the podcast or read her book to find out more on that. So,
you know, I know someone who had surgery on their breasts, and they were not allowed to have an operation that was needed for medical or for I'm sorry, it was a cosmetic, but it was a necessary cosmetic surgery for breasts. However, they wouldn't let that happen because of liability and insurance. However, if she came in and said, "Cut them off, I want to be a man," in the name of LGBTQ,
yes,
boom, they would cut the breasts off without a second thought. No morals, because it was a political issue. They would be allowed to take those breasts away forever. But they would not do it for a cosmetic reason. And that's where we're at.
Same with labeling deaths as COVID. Are you going to get this big of a payout if you label it as the truth? Nope. All right. Slap a COVID stamp on it.
2 + 2 is 5, not 4, you know? Yeah. And I see the LGBT. I don't see homosexuality as a moral issue. I don't think people who are gay are going to burn in hell. I don't think should be persecuted. I don't think they're necessarily gross and all that shit. It affects 3% of people naturally we're biological creatures in this dimension. It's not perfect. Everything tries to be round. There are edges. There are gray areas where things blend. That's where the homosexuality happens. And there's a place for it, I think, in nature. It's interesting when you contemplate these things, and I'll talk about these things all day long, because I have no hate in my heart for gay people at all. I mean, absolutely at all. When we read about these things in the biblical scripture, Sodom and Gomorrah, a lot of people don't know this. Everyone says, "Oh, God, God threw fireballs down, lightning, and killed Sodom and Gomorrah, everyone there, because he hated gay people." No, it's not what happened. If you read that book, he did not destroy them because they were gay. He destroyed those towns because there's other ones too, but those were made the example of. They openly accepted the homosexuality as a way of life and proliferated it above its natural, normal level. If you read the scripture, that's what it says. It was publicly accepted as a normalcy, as opposed to, this has its place here in nature. They had lifted the homosexuality up, and it became a decadence. And because of that, the societies began to collapse and degrade around it. If you read the Bible, and any preacher worth his salt, and any priest, they don't like talking about this stuff too much because they lose their flock anymore. But that's biblically what had happened. And I kind of tend to, I had a really good friend, very good friend. We did a lot of political work together. We hung out, we were best friends. I loved him as a brother. And I always knew he was gay. And we got talking one night, and he says, "Well, how do you feel? I'm gay." Yeah, I've known you're gay since the beginning, dude. Like, fuck, I don't give a shit. I never threatened. He goes, "Well, how do you feel?" And I said, I don't think it's a moral deal, dude. I said, I think the problem with the agenda, with the gay agenda, is it's going to destroy the family unit. And I see the family unit as a necessary component of the economics for the furtherance of our country. Our freedom lies in the family, in the businesses, in the wealth that we retain at this level spread out for us to make the difference in our country. And homosexuality, when it's weaponized, and it has been weaponized, is a direct weapon against that. I said, so I see your behavior not as immoral. I don't see it as evil. You are naturally gay. You've told me that since you were, 3, you knew that you were gay. You're attracted to boys and not girls and everything else. And I believe you. I don't think you're evil. I just think that the proliferation and spreading of this as a way of life to those who aren't naturally gay is extremely dangerous for the health of our nation. He got so pissed at me, he never, ever spoke to me again. And, I figured he would just have a normal conversation about what we truly felt. Nope, he couldn't do it. He was so invested in that agenda to push the gay agenda. I said, dude, I have no hatred for you. You know that. But he couldn't live with it.
Well, I feel for him a little bit. It's tough. It's tough right now. It's because on the surface, here's my take on it. It might seem like, oh, it's the easiest time ever to be gay because everybody, it's so accepted and all these things. But I don't know if that's true. The people that truly identify as gay, they might have the roughest time of all right now, because I think even they may feel confused as to why things aren't really what they might have anticipated. There may be something, and this is just a suspicion that I have underneath the surface, an inkling or an intuition in them that states, this is not what I stand for necessarily, but it's the only way that I know how to stand, because this is where the whole community is going, even though it might not jive so well with the way I think or the way I believe. I'm going to go anyway, because that's where the whole gay community is going.
It was weaponized, and that's their tribe. That's where they're going to be safe. That's their security system.
But there's no agency in that. There's no way that there's no vote that your friend there communism may have if he doesn't realize that these things are happening. He might feel quite literally powerless too. So I gotta say, I feel for him too. It makes me a little bit sad because of his reaction, because he's hurting too.
Sure. I addressed them here. San Jemmy says,
get this one.
What's that?
Yes, I was just going to have you get this one.
It says, Corey usually says religion is part of the problem to push the communist agendas. Religions are against homosexuality and want procreation. One wants to lower population while the other wants families and breeding. How does that fit? I don't always say that religion is part of the problem to push the communist agenda. In fact, communists destroy religion. They snuff out religion and replace it with their own political doctrine. That's for number one. Religions are generally against homosexuality. Absolutely, they are. And that's for a number of reasons. Religion was made for man. It was made to give us I'm going to shake a Bible at you here. It was to give us a rule book and say, here it is, take it, go forward. Here are the rules. Live by this, and you'll be okay for the most part. We got a lot of knowledge in here. Take it. And one of those things is,
well, at least I would say, at least the New Testament with Jesus's stuff is the Old Testament's kind of a mess in my opinion, but the New Testament.
It is. There's a lot of knowledge in there. I love the Torah. The Torah is full of such ancient coded knowledge.
Well, that's the thing that shares what the alien subjection really is. That's in Hebrew, anyway.
There's a lot of crazy shit in the Torah. And it fascinates me to know, especially Genesis. Genesis alone is, I can spend the rest of my life and people have just studying that book. But yeah, I guess life is fragile. At the same time, the other side of that licorice drop, okay, not coin, is you want one? Okay. I know you want another one. The other side of that is that at the same time, we're extremely prolific animals. And we are animals. We're thin-skinned mammals with opposable thumbs. So we are capable of amazing things, yet we're so fragile, we die so easy. We can be snuffed out. And that's that yin and the yang, the white and the black, the opposite extremes. I think that the powers that be want the option of that labor and want the option of that life force that gets things done and builds things, while at the same time they want to control it. And they do that through lowering the population. We needed higher populations when we were on this planet and weren't the strongest things, and dire wolves were wiping us out, and we didn't have agriculture, and a blizzard would come in and wipe out a complete continent, or Spanish flu, or whatever the case is. We need higher populations. We then grew through that. medicine adapted, agriculture got better, whatever. We don't need them anymore. See, humanity is a commodity. I don't think we are necessarily the prize, the goal. We are it's a theory of mine. I'm not set on it. I'm not going to hang my hat on this, but it almost feels like we are a biological tool of spirituality used to build something else.
Yeah. And we've got creativity, the propensity for creativity flowing through us, where I'm not so thoroughly convinced that those who have ultimate control over this thing have the ability to be creative or even have emotions, maybe, for that matter.
It could very well be. And they need us and want us. What if our sole purpose was to incarnate in this dimension, have experiences that get wrapped up in our third to fourth dimensional computer here. And then when we die, we are more than what we were when we got here. And when they pull that knowledge over to the other side, the higher dimension, what if we're a machine, a spiritual machine to transfer energy, prana, to the other side? I don't know.
This is kind of what the Egyptian Book of the Dead talks about with the trials and the things that you face.
Yeah.
In your journey out through the Milky Way. Yeah. There's some very dangerous archetypes that it warns against. Don't go here type of things that say, hey, duck underneath this sword so you don't get your head cut off this time, so you can make it back. And it's all part of whatever Wetiko is in this multidimensional aspect, and it's all part of our lesson and in reincarnating through it. But
just to wrap up this thing here, it's good. Thank you. How does that fit in? One wants to lower population while the other wants families and breeding. So, well, if you look at the churches and the religious systems that we have, these institutions, they are mechanisms and tools for control. So their job is to go out there and create stability, right? That's what they are. And stability comes through a nuclear family. A man will settle down when he has a woman, when he has kids. He will settle down and he will seek stability. He will go to a job and work there for 30, 40, 50 years. He will stabilize the economy. That economy can then be co-opted by bigger systems and bigger people utilizing money and resources and interest and the institutions, the larger edifices of society to grow the species. But that man is a key component to getting the labor done. And with a family, the family unit allows this man to be used like that. Whereas the lone wolf is out there flailing in entropy, stealing, robbing, taking what he wants. Again, you have the dichotomy. You have the man who is tied down in a prisoner, I say a prisoner, in a family life, not going out there and living the internal primal desires, right? At the same time, he's getting other rewards of stability and security and a woman. Married men get more sex. It's a fact, right? Married men are happier. Married men live longer. Married men have their families. There's something, a component that you only appreciate when you're older. If you get married and build that foundation when you're younger, you'll have it. And that's the wisdom that the elders tell. At the same time, we don't have, they don't have that Harley riding out there being warriors and lone wolves. And that's what you sacrifice. That's the yin and the yang there. But that's what is necessary to drive our species. And I think that religion is simply a system of rules and laws and, things to do to move us forward. And homosexuality moves directly against that. It flies in the face of creating that family. At the same time, there's compassion. There's compassion in all religions for people, and that's extremely important. You don't go out there and kill and maim people because of whatever they are. You don't do that. And you shouldn't do that for gay people. Absolutely not. It's just not needed. It's cruel. It's sick. So,
well, I think you can also apply. I've got one additional perspective, I guess I'd like to lend to the word stability. Stability is, it's not an illusion or anything like that. But what we were talking about with the 4 A's, awareness, acceptance, adjustment, advancement. and to do this perpetually hardly creates stability in one's life. In fact, it's kind of the explanation of the creative process, and the creative process is not very stable. But I do think the nuclear family I have an alternate viewpoint on it. I think the nuclear family actually creates more propensity to be creative. Stability comes with the nice stable movement that you're able to have, but stability and comfort are two different things too. I think comfort has been sold to us.
You're freezing up, brother.
Am I here?
Skullcap. No,
Hold on.
There you are. I got you.
Where did you lose me?
You had your hand up. You said stability.
I think comfort has been comfort has been the thing that's gotten sold to us and told us that it's stability, and this is the problem of definition of terms. It's a very like Tower of Babel type thing to be dealing with meaning, right? Because I think that's also kind of what we're going through right now is we're losing the meaning of words, and we can't communicate with people. It seems a lot like that story in the Bible. So what I'm saying here is that if stability actually is challenged every time your creative process is ignited, but that is what living is. By having a nuclear family, the yin and the yang just quite frankly happens easier with the man and the woman because the two polarities are
male and female
charged as such. Yeah.
Order and chaos.
So the creativity can happen more spontaneously. That stability is also a trick, therefore, though, because it would have you believe that something like the 50-year pension job is something to be fought for. And this is not an opinion that's popular. I piss people off with this opinion equally to kind of what you just gave, your anecdote with your bud there. But I don't actually argue even for recreating the manufacturing jobs the way that they are right now. Or
I think that was a phase that we went through to get to this level of technology.
Yeah. We've all got to find stuff to do now, though. That's the problem is the identity of the person, the stability of the person is in their identity. And it is going to take them, the average person, a while to figure out what their purpose is, repivot themselves toward that. These are those neural pathways we're talking about. To just kickstart creativity is really tough. And this whole process with this manipulation of sexes and races is only a part of that whole grander scheme. And the other part is that deceptive piece that sells you the stability in the first place rather than go do something different. Go do something. Okay, now you did that. Go do something different. Okay, now go do something different. The sameness is the thing that gets us into these ruts.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why we need vacations. That's why you go out and have adventures. You have to.
Those are good too.
That's why I take a cold shower once a week, or eat food I don't like or don't ever try, because it's good for you to do that. There's who's the pain spokesman person for Hillsdale College, the Jewish author, Dennis, what is it? Dennis Prager.
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh God, he's one of my heroes, one of my absolute total heroes. And he does a male-female hour. He does truth hour. He does amazing content. It's a blessing to have found him so young in my life and listened to his radio shows growing up. But he told something very important when I was younger on one of his radio shows. He said that men are a man has to get by and he has to overcome his greatest challenge, and that's his sexuality. Because men our biological imperative is to procreate with as many females as possible. Every man knows it. I don't care what your name is. Don't lie to me. That's what at 12 years old, I know what you're thinking all day long, 25 hours a day. Okay, that's what we do. When a man gets married and puts that there and takes care of that, he can then turn his mind towards whatever Tesla did or Edison did or his studies or his work or progress or building civilization. A woman needs to overcome her emotions. and not let them drive her, because her emotions will tear apart the fabric of her life, will tear apart her marriage, will tear apart everything, because women are emotional based thinkers, emotional based actors. Everything gets run through an emotional filter. And of course, there's exceptions for this rule on both sides of it, but that's how we are biologically created. But it's very important. Marriage is a very important component for men to be able to actually move forward and get to work and be productive and fulfill those other aspects that make them extremely satisfied and happy as their life goals. A lot of people don't realize that. They think that men are trapped, but men who have been married to a good woman, and I've been successfully married twice now, so I know the pitfalls. I know, but it sometimes takes a few times. I know how to pick a good woman now and what to look for and what to avoid. But you find a good woman, that woman will make that man, magnify that man, and help him, and vice versa. So it's important stuff, so it doesn't get talked about very often because people don't like to talk about that stuff, sexuality and homosexuality and marriage and all that stuff. But marriage is a very important component to civilization and long-term stability and happiness of anybody, and even your economic freedom in the end, and your political freedom and your rights. That hinges on families. It hinges on community. You need to understand this out there. It's so important. People just don't get it. And back again to communism. Communism tries to destroy religion, faith, and belief, and supplants it with their own communist political doctrine. That's what it does.
I hope everybody's seeing how blatant this tapestry is with all of this that we've been talking about today. These are all artifacts of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't get into some of the stuff here. Let's blow through here real quick. We got about another 10, 15 minutes, whatever you want here.
Mainly, the thing people should probably know about top of it, Corey, is the Three Gorges Dam incident that's playing out rapidly / slowly.
Okay.
That's the main thing of an artifact. The
Three Gorges Dam?
Of a counterattack. Yeah.
Where are we at here?
That it seems like the U.S. is rendering to China, but
is this one here? Oh, yeah. China claims Three Gorges Dam in elastic state after Google Maps shows warping. What's going on there?
Well, it was a dam that was built in 2006. It's not making a lot of the main channels for probably obvious reasons, but it's the biggest dam in the world. It's up the Yangtze River, and it's upstream from the entire essentially they're China's equivalent of the breadbasket. So everything that's down channel from that is all their farmland. Wuhan is also downstream, right on the Yangtze, and Shanghai is further downstream. It's this biggest dam in the world is failing. It's coming off of the bedrock. It was never secured to the bedrock in the first place. It was only made in 2006. It's a brand new friggin' dam. And so this is the water runs the risk of overtopping it here within the next few weeks.
What happens?
Well, if it fails, there's a 250 to 350 foot wall of water that by the time it reached Shanghai would even take out Shanghai. So you can kiss all of the cropland, all of the agriculture, Wuhan itself, which is the main manufacturing hub for consumer electronics in the world, and Shanghai, which is I think it's the second biggest city in China. 400 million people downstream affected by this instantaneously, and they're only evacuating the CCP members. About 40 million of people have been evacuated who have in some way are associated with the CCP. With everybody else, they're putting them through air raid drills. They're putting air raid propaganda all over the place to get underground if you hear the air raids, which would just, I mean, I don't know what you do. It's just death. You just got 250 foot wall of water coming over the top. But the point is this would seem like weather warfare because the rain that's coming down is unseasonable, right? To coincide with COVID-19 hitting the United States, the rains started in China and have not stopped since. They've been constant. And so all the dams upstream are overflowed. So they had to let all the water out from them. It's that classic finding the chink in the armor, twisting the knife through it whole idiom. And we all know, if anybody's not read this book, this is Elena Freeland's book, Under an Ionized Sky.
Yeah.
That talks to all the technology that makes this happen. It's actually quite simple. It's Nikola Tesla concepts. You just create reverse polarity, and you could just create pockets of energy to guide a channel where a cloud might go. It's simplex, and it's harder in its execution because you actually need to build the technology to do it. But there you have it. It's
Clay writes. No, yeah, Clay writes here. They have shitloads of nuke power plants downstream.
Yes, the nukes too. He's right. There's a lot of nuclear power plant. That's
going to go right to the ocean, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good. The sewage mess that it would create.
How many millions dead? Do they know?
400 million affected. I don't know how many would actually die. You know, just like they're hiding the actual dead numbers from the Beirut explosion the other day. It's just clearly thousands and thousands of people were vaporized instantly if the density of that area is any indication.
What do you think that was?
Oh, there's speculation on it right now going around the web. It's
Trump said it was within hours. Trump stated that his military advisor told him that it was a weapon.
Yeah, I think it's of the orbital variety of technology. It's something that's likely up there. All the Star Wars program that Reagan got behind got built. That's a lot of people don't realize. All that stuff's up there. It played a part in the 9/11 incident, it seems. So
there was the initial explosion, and everyone turned their cameras over towards it, and then it was the boom, almost like it was scripted out.
Well, our friend Joseph Farrell, he wrote in his blog today actually about this. This is probably one of the better speculations I've heard, but he's thinking it's this type of weapon where if you create enough sediment in the air, you can create what's called an air water bomb, or a air vapor, a fuel vapor bomb.
Okay.
So you create basically a template of things that are particulating in the air, and you can create something to ignite that to where there's no pressure for any of the explosion to go. So it just creates kind of this cascading effect instantaneously and creates this shockwave. But it needs a catalyst. It needs a starter. So there's all sorts of stuff going around. It's the widely speculated on Rod of God incident that happened in Tianjin, China 4 years ago. It doesn't really look like that. I don't know if this is really a Rod of God candidate, just because of if you compare the two, they're dissimilar in both the crater that's left in Tianjin. It was a much deeper crater. You can't really see the entire depth of the Beirut one because it was partially in the water. But
remember there was an earthquake in North Korea. We were in negotiations with Kim Jong-un, and he was mouthing off, and they had that huge earthquake that they said it was like a nuclear bomb testing that went off or something or other. I had someone tell me in the know that was a rod of God, that we sent down one of those tungsten rods into that mountain, into that military base, and basically just frickin' vaporized it from space with that 15-foot tungsten steel.
It's a really effective weapon. It's not the way it works is pretty ingenious. It doesn't require anything except for gravity and the implement itself, because the rod quite simply outpaces the energy that it's creating in its far passing the terminal velocity it's creating. And so it penetrates through, but then all that energy follows with it, as if you can kind of visualize an invisible shockwave following it that compresses all at once. So you've got 300,000 feet all at once of compressed energy all in it, and that it just goes. Pretty ingenious, but very dangerous.
They got that idea with the flechettes they used to drop out of the airplanes in Vietnam. That's where the idea came from, and they didn't have the ability to get those things up into space until recently. I say recently, but early 2000.
This whole China thing, back to it, it's going to create it could affect us here again, just like the supply chain. We're not really even seeing the effects of the manufactured supply chain yet. The food supply chain is definitely going to be affected. You can expect famine to hit certain areas of the world with this disaster. You can certainly, you might be able to say that because of this incident, if the Three Gorges Dam fails, you might be able to say bye-bye to the CCP. This might be the end of the war type of situation. It's going to be a devastating blow.
Sure.
And all the damage that the CCP has wrought really, really slowly over time, maybe that's our opportunity to wake the heck up all at once. I don't know.
Why do you think Trump hasn't done more to root out the communists in our society, in our colleges, and I don't think his faction cares so much about the person. I think his faction cares more about the technology and getting to space itself than about the individual person. I think it's just a bunch of politics. They don't care any more than the people who are against him care about us. It's kind of us for us. And I look at one side as the lesser of two evils. If I had my druthers, I'd rather have the space tech and the history unsuppressed. Yeah, I can do something with that. History. Yeah, you had something queued up here. Let's talk about that real quick. Right here. This is I want to talk about this. A third of U.S. museums not confident they will survive.
Yeah.
Tell us about the implications on that.
Well, one of the implications is financial. Cash grab for actual stuff that's worth anything, because all this modern art fiasco bullcrap since the 60s it's not based in any sort of Gestalt principle. It's not classically relevant in any sort of sacred geometrical ratio. There's no Fibonacci sequencing going on with any of this modern art. It's not beautiful. It's not
it's not art.
It's not worth anything. It's worthless. The people that know anything about art know this. So that is something that, the actual works of art can just make themselves into more and more exclusive hands. So there's a financial aspect to it, but the other aspect to it is this thing that I think we're going to start seeing more and more. And one of the other stories I sent you is that, all of a sudden, all of Christopher Columbus's journals are fake.
Right here. Who's stealing Christopher Columbus's letters from libraries around the world? Copies of a letter written by Christopher Columbus describing the first impressions of the Americas have become so rare and valuable, they're being stolen and replaced with forgeries at some of the world's most prestigious libraries.
And the problem with that is, now you've deemed these forgeries. So even if the forgery is a perfect forgery, meaning it's an exact replication of what was said, it could now just be called into doubt. It's a forgery. We can't believe anything it says. That's a very dangerous, slippery slope to go on. It's a forged document. We can't use it. If these are the only examples, and these have been periodically replaced in libraries, why did nobody notice? Because there are like 400 examples of these things worldwide. And how did it happen so completely?
And how they just notice now.
And how they just notice now, all at once. I just called all my other library buddies, and they're right. They're right. Theirs is forged too. Holy crap.
Yeah, this ties into me. This shows me they are destroying. Trump said it best at the I loved his Mount Rushmore speech. Fuck, did I love that speech. He said they are destroying and erasing our history. They're supplanting it with hatred for America. Mm-hmm. There is a left communist. He didn't use the word communist, but he said there's a left-wing progressive destructive force in our school systems and in our colleges and in our culture that is rotting us from within. And part of the communist agenda is to destroy history. What did we destroy this last couple months? All the damn statues. They tore down statue after statue, and they're replacing it with nothing. We're getting rid of our history. And when you get rid of the history, you're no longer a people with the history. You can be anything. They can then just rewrite it.
Well, I think the statues themselves are a little bit of a boondoggle, Corey, and here's why. Because everybody's up in arms about those, but they're not up in arms about the actual texts like we're talking about. Mm-hmm. History is going to live on through text. A statue is a statue, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a little bit more inconsequential to the overall narrative. Texts that are more significant are like the pyramids of Egypt, right? Those are texts in and of themselves, but you can learn you can learn more from a book about a character that's truly written than a statue that I also challenge the validity of the plaques and the accuracy of the things that are written on the said plaques and things like that. So I don't know. I'm a little bit more indifferent about the statues themselves. I'm all for the history being erased, but if I think they're making you care that history is being erased by pointing you toward the statues.
Yeah, the statue is a public acknowledgement of the value of this culture. When you see Benjamin Franklin, for all of his goods and bads, you say, yes, he was Benjamin Franklin, he did this. When you see Martin Luther King, you say, yeah, he was this and he was that, and we can say he was part of our history. We put him up in a park for everyone to see and acknowledge that this is our collective history. It's out in the open. A book, Google's buying rights to all the literature. They're doing their best for all the college literature that you get now. Books are going away. Everything, Google is rewriting all that. What happens when Google gets the rights to the Bible? These ancient texts.
Amazon's book burning program, the Kindle.
Yeah,
the Amazon
exactly.
Fire and the Amazon Kindle. It's book burning.
Exactly. It is book burning. History, the ability to have it unmolested and unadulterated is so important. And they are now, it looks like, when you pointed this out to me today, they are casting doubt, that little seed of doubt in these ancient texts. This is ancient, I guess, well, not ancient, near ancient, I guess, historical anyway. And it's going to cast doubt into it. It's one more attack, I think, on our collective history. It feels like it.
It's where all the answers are, though. I really want people to, by their own volition, start caring more about the ancient past. It's not all figured out. Past 250 years back, everything is in question. Everything. Yeah. When are we? You can ask. When the hell is this time?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's important about the recent history. It's important to know that one of the first the first slave trader in America was black. It's important to know the Democrat Party pushed that slavery and pushed it, and it was the Republican Party, which at the time that was eradicating it. It's important to know that there were as many white Irish indentured servants / slaves, and still are, as opposed to the black. We are being told a lie. Only 32%, something, or maybe 38% of African Americans in America today can even trace their lineage back to people that were here from slavery. The rest of them, they moved over here after slavery was over.
Well, you know why? It's because the word slavery tells you the answer to the riddle. The root word is Slav. Mm-hmm. Slavery, the Slavic people. There's a reason why all the Slavic red-haired. Mm-hmm. This is the Irish as a derivative, is a downwind derivative of Slavic people. What a lot of people don't know is Africa, the continent of Africa, has not always been called Africa. In fact, there's a different area entirely in the world that used to have the word Africa labeled as it. The Caucasus Mountains, believe it or not,
really
used to be called Africa. Yeah, about 1,200 years ago. It was the Caucasus Mountains that the Africans were from. White people, the slaves, where the word slavery or slavery seems to originate. And so this is all wordplay. It's actual slavery that they put. I'm not saying that they didn't enslave black people from modern day Africa too. They just rinsed and repeated the original process by which you can ascribe all of these terms to. So you have to ask yourself,
I got some studying to do.
What the hell,
Yeah, it seems like ritual to me, Illinois rep wants to abolish history class as racist. Of course they do. Won't bother going to this article.
They're trying to do that too. Yeah,
it just doesn't end. Communism secured. Elon Musk calls Chinese smart and hardworking, says Americans are entitled and complacent. What's your feelings on Elon Musk?
I've shared a couple of them earlier. He's one of the technocrats that's not truly for getting to space, even though everything he's talking about is totally innovative in space. He's all about fencing us in. He's all about fencing us in with his
Skynet.
His Skynet network. And if you look in the Hebrew, in Canaan, they called the god race the L for the Elohim.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk is, to me, clearly an Anunnakian Elohim referential deal. So
On was the town On, the city of On.
Yes.
The sun. It means the sun.
Yeah. It's all just wordplay. It's all spells. It's just spells, and it's in a very Jordan Maxwellian way. When you see the word in the other aspect, you're like, oh, geez, I can't unsee it, and it's just one of those things. So it's clear to me what his motives are, and that should be all that matters to anybody. He's not for an actual Tesla paradigm. He's bastardizing it just the same way as Abraham Lincoln is rolling over in his grave for his face being on a Federal Reserve note.
I've always said that. Yeah, it was slapping the face of our founding fathers to put their faces right on the very thing they tried to keep out of this country. Those were the bonds that enslaved the descendants of the founding fathers, was that Federal Reserve. Yeah. What did you give me earlier? The Pentagon's new UFO disclosure, 75 years of MK Ultra psyops.
This is starting to come. So there's starting to be blurred lines that are proving Martin Cannon's theories of what the alien abductions are, and if they are artifacts of the MK Ultra experiments themselves.
Okay.
And the way this pans out, of course, is if you can the frequencies of the brain, if you can so control, you can project anything you want into the consciousness of the person. They will see it, they will feel it, they will taste it, just like in the Matrix. Mm-hmm. And the consistency and the level of details that are absolutely similar to alien abduction cases and what's being done to the person. What it seems like to Martin Cannon in his essays that he's written about the topic, what it points to is the fact that it could be, and very, very well likely might be, that the very agent provocateurs that are causing the MK Ultra phenomenon to be this big experimental petri dish that we're in, they're snatching people out, and they're doing installations of lobes and things in their head. They're doing all the things that, of course, that the person thinks that they're being experimented on. But instead of it being a person, they're tricking their brain into seeing an alien instead, type of a deal.
Interesting.
So the two stories correlate or cross over. The abductions specifically. Now, I separate alien abductions from alien control. I think they are both mutually exclusive of each other because it just proves that there's a human component to what's being done. There's a complicity of a certain amount of us humans that are helping along and truly are helping along this agenda for whoever it might be that's implementing all these things on us in our control grid, because they're getting gain from it. They're getting pleasures. They're getting carnal pleasures, and that's all there is to it. That's really the only reason I tie that to it.
Okay.
Because it does affect us internally too. It's not all about China and the CCP. There's all the stuff that's in the underbelly of the deep state. It's all still there. But the real enemy and how we break through this stuff is what I hope everybody's looked at this with new perspective today and say, oh, yeah, there's maybe more that can be done just within the domain of my own mind as it relates to overcoming some of these things.
Yeah, I don't see and think that the CCP agenda mentality thing is necessarily the same communism that has permeated our culture, the cultural Marxism that is being weaponized against our foundations of our freedom.
Yeah, I think we've got more like Nazi fascism going on.
We really do. We absolutely. I think we really do have that going on over here. So it's maybe it's a hybrid. Maybe it's they're just they're cutting it loose and seeing what it's going to morph into. As long as it's destroying the family, as long as it is doing its job, I think they're going to keep fueling it.
Well, it's all Wetico, man. That's the top of all of it. It's all derivative Wetico. No matter what you label it. That's the thing. We're all humans here. We should really be fighting this fight against Wetico once we can all wrap our heads around it. But we're a little ways away from being able to speak in those terms very broadly.
I got a few people in the comment section I'm not too sure about, but for the most of them, yeah, most of us are human here.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we've been at this for a while. I want to thank you. Should I wrap it up here?
Sure.
Thanks for coming on, brother. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for chatting. We'll have to do it more often here, and especially as this streaming strategy for us both shifts. Maybe we'll have more to don't give away what the other streaming platform, I guess, these guys may or may not be, but there's a good one that might happen here.
All right. Like I say, anytime you want to come on or you got something you want to discuss, by all means, shoot me a call and we'll get you on here. I love having you on.
Well, if anybody wants to come over, I'm going to be attempting to expand the Patreon page and add a lot more engagement for these topics to be discussed more thoroughly. Because as Corey's doing over at DLive, I can't really talk about a lot of this stuff very freely on YouTube. I got to keep some of the topics there for myself to not get banned, so I can reach people at least with it. But you can follow me there. Those are the only two places I'm at: Skullcap SaVant on YouTube and Patreon now. But otherwise, I'll make it back here before too long too.
All right, brother.
Take it easy.
All right, man. You too. And I'll be in touch for sure.
All right.
All right, man. Take care.